Well, hello. This is a weird person with a funny voice. Sorry guys, it's me, yes. The one and only, the guy that has covered so many different subjects. I'm the guy that's debunked the debunkers. I know this sounds like a big-headed start to a show, doesn't it? But it's just giving you some background, I guess. I'm also the guy that told you where Atlantis is compared to everyone else. I was spot on. I'm also the guy that told you who was on Atlantis. I'm also the guy that connected Stonehenge with the Anunnaki. All proof, obviously. I don't lie. So I've got some background in research. So before I started this live, I was just flicking through other people's lives and videos, and I come across one of those Billy Carson videos again, and it was about 3 minutes long, and literally everything he said was wrong. I mean, I couldn't help it. I had to stitch one. I know I don't normally knock people down like that. I try not to, but it was just so ridiculous. So basically, he said that the Anunnaki manipulated hominids here on Earth, which is correct. So at least he's got that bit right. And he says that the junk DNA that we have, 98% junk DNA, was actually the Neanderthals, and that the Anunnaki cut that out of us or stopped it. So I had to do a stitch video and say, you do realise that means the Neanderthals had 100% DNA, and we're running on 2%, 2% DNA. When so even though we're technically smarter, stronger, and everything else than Neanderthal, we've only got 2% DNA, whereas the Neanderthal had 100% DNA. So literally, what he said does not make sense whatsoever. Of course, the junk DNA, if he'd done his research, he would have found out that literally every research company ends up agreeing that the junk DNA is DNA from when we first, single-celled organisms all the way up. And obviously, as we evolve, we don't use those DNAs anymore. And again, the proof is the fact that the scientists had switched the DNA, dead DNA, or junk as Billy would call it, switched it on in an embryo of a chicken, and it turned the feathers were scales, like a snake scales, as opposed to feathers. So clearly there is the junk DNA isn't junk DNA; it's actually DNA from predecessors that we don't use anymore. So, so I couldn't, in all honesty, let Billy get away with doing 3 minutes of kind of rubbish. So I did end up. Okay, so to the questions. Okay, Roy MC has wrote all our history is a lie. I wouldn't say all of it. Obviously, the Bible mixed it up. I think when modern humans, changed the Bible deliberately, that's when I think we get the lies. Prior to that, obviously, we have got the original tablets of various things, so we kind of know what was the original part. So they're not hiding absolutely everything. Sometimes you have to read between the lines on the ancient tablets. And in fact, I did one today for my Patreon page, which was I was sorry, Khalid. I was actually only going to do a short live today, just really talking about the flood. He's asked to join in the live. So yeah, so I've done. I read out the transcript or translation of the tablets that talk about the flood. Not all of them, because there's some still in the British Museum that I will get round to. But so definitely we can read. It's just not many people A will bother reading it, and B actually connecting all the dots. Because when I read it for my Patreon page, what I've done is as I read it. So for example, it will say Enki and Ayana lamented. They were up in heaven, which we know is space. And as they basically watched humans perish while the flood was going on, that kind of thing. So I can explain who Enki is. I can explain various different things about the text that I'm reading out, which gives people a fascinating insight if they haven't done any research. So you've literally got the whole jigsaw by me explaining it as well as reading it, so you can literally see they're talking about the flood. And if you want me to waffle on about the flood in that particular text or there's a few tablets there, but if you want me to talk about that, I will. Bear has wrote, "Where is Atlantis?" So Atlantis is actually a place that we call Heraclean. Now you're going to say, if you know anything about anything, you'll say, Heraclean, no, that can't be Atlantis because it's called Heraclean. But you need to know the circumstances as to why that's Atlantis. First of all, Heraclean was only given the name, that sunken city, and it is a city. That sunken city in Egypt, at the top of Egypt, was given the name Heraclean because they found many, many tablets in the sunken city, and they all had names on, etc., and various different bits and pieces, which they didn't understand. But one of them they read out and managed to say, hang on a minute, somewhere else talked about Heraclean, somewhere on land. Okay, maybe that's Heraclean, and they have then just called it Heraclean simply because they found a tablet with the word Heraclean that they could understand and match. That's the first reason why. Now, you could go on about Ricketts structure, etc., whereas I can actually point, Ricketts structure, if you Eye Sahara, it has got zero, other than it kind of resembles a circle. That is as far as the extent it goes. However, mine is, not only is it a city, mine, guaranteed a city, whereas Ricketts structure is just mud. Mine is a city. Mine was a circular city with lakes in between. Wow. Yes, concentric circles. Wow. Okay. Emerald Tablets of Thoth said that Thoth lived there and left when it sank. The temple for Thoth is in the ocean, in the city, sunken. So in other words, Thoth was really there. You don't have a temple where he's not. So Thoth generally was there. So that makes sense. And basically there's a long list. Feel free to watch my videos. Long list compared to anyone else. Anyone. I challenge anyone to give me more than 14 points that connect. People will say, well, the Ricketts structure, because Plato said, and then I can point out and I can debunk them straight away by saying Plato said also, that it's 150 miles away from Athens, and the Ricketts structure is, I think, 12,000 miles. So I win without sounding big-headed. No one can beat 14. I mean, the closest we've got is probably 2, where it's something sunken and they found pottery. That's as close as you get. Mine actually says it's concentric circles. The list just goes on, basically. Watch my videos if you're interested to find out more on that. Roy MC has wrote it's in Africa, Atlantis. However, it's not, because if I asked you, Roy, name 14 points that connect Africa to Atlantis, you'll just say, well, there's a Eye of Sahara, which is what you're probably going to say, and it's round. And then I'll say, okay, well, any structures found there? No. Now, there are people online that says there is, and I said, okay, show me, an image of one of these structures. Of course they can't, because it's never been excavated. Then you get that numpty guy that's got millions of followers on YouTube that turns around and says, well, it is definitely thingy because it's got elephants there and Plato mentioned elephants. Really? Really? The world mind boggles. So anyway, basically, bottom line is, when you've got 14 points and the closest one is 2 to connect anything, mine is, even if I'm wrong, which I can't see I'm going to be wrong, because Emerald Tablets of Thoth said Thoth, who was the guy that left Atlantis to go to Egypt. Well, technically, he flew or walked to the actual another location in Egypt. So technically, that was in Egypt. In fact, the Egyptians call it, the Heraclean call it the Egyptian Atlantis. They already knew, but they didn't obviously figure it all out like I did. So, Thoth was also Ningazida in the Sumerian tablets, and he was the one that created the pyramids. So he was actually very technically advanced compared to everyone else. So his city would have been more technically advanced than everyone else's, which again makes it more believable that I'm right. Sorry, 1 second. What, Clark? It's in my room. It's in my computer. Sorry, my boy's nicking one of my power wires. It's on the top of my computer by the desk. John Edwards wrote All Lies, and then John Edwards then wrote Evolution is False. So, first of all, I was just talking about junk DNA, so I wonder how you could explain that. But forgetting the junk DNA, which is our previous incarnations of whatever was, going back millions, billions of years. So, evolution is false. So I would like to ask you then, because you're probably going to say it's Jesus. That's the only way you could really, or God, sorry. That's the only way you could really say that it's not true, because obviously you will have to say one way or another. Now, as you probably know, Hawaii had, before man went there, Hawaii had everything totally indigenous to that island. Nothing else was on there that belonged anywhere else, and that's because it evolved on its own. And there you go, the word evolve. So you'd have to be a Bible believer, really, to be fair, if you believe that evolution is not real. Now, the missing link, which is where, if you're going to say, well, there's a missing link, which you probably wouldn't, because it's to do with the Bible, but yes, we do have a missing link, and that's because we have chromosomes missing, 20, 23 and 24. They're fused together, and you can only do that really in a laboratory setting. So we actually have technically the missing link, because we've got stone tablets that talk about Anunnaki creating us. So there is evolution and there is a missing link, but that's only because we've been genetically modified. Blue 18 is wrote evolution isn't false. No, I totally agree with you there. X Betas wrote, when do you think the mud flood was? I'm around the early 800s. I've looked into the mud flood. There is no mud flood. I don't know how. It's the same. It's the same as people believe in the flat Earth, etc. There is no mud flood. There was a Mongolian empire called the Tatarian Empire, and also there was a place in Russia called Tataria. And all they've got to go on is some possible Tesla-type coils that were created before Tesla by some people. But from that, they've established wait for it, that there was an empire that was around the world, America, etc. And when some mud suddenly, in other words, I'm guessing a great flood, but no one's obviously mentioned that. So when some mud covered over in Russia, in New York, etc., a couple of 100 years ago, according to majority of the mud flood people, not only did everyone have amnesia thereafter, anything that was ever written about the empire also just vanished. So it doesn't quite make sense. And also the pictures that they show, some of them are buildings carved into rock as opposed to mud covering over them. So when people have to lie, I have to pull it up and say, no, you're wrong. So no, I don't think there is. Rov Pilot is right, because there were 2 nukes detonated by them involving the flood. No, unfortunately. I don't know what you've read, but wherever that come from, it's not correct. So basically, they had 7 nukes, and this is in stone tablets, so we know that. I mean, we've got proof of 2 that was used, even though they did use all 7. And when I say we've got proof, we've got green glass in Egypt and isotopes, etc. And in India also has a nuclear, this is scientifically proven that there's a nuclear explosion sometime in our past. Now, the scientists obviously won't turn around and say it was an Anunnaki type nuclear weapon, even though the Bible actually literally admits that there was, because of the radiation that people had with the eyes rotting and the food, and no one else could eat it, and yada yada yada. That's what happens when you have radiation. But yeah, so the flood was actually nothing to do with the nukes. The nukes they done about 3,000 to 4,000 BCE. So the flood, according to the tablets, was approximately 10,000 years ago. So yeah, well, technically probably 10,000 BCE. So yeah, they're 2 different, and basically an ice shelf that was the size of Texas broke off of Antarctica, slid into the water, which caused the deluge as opposed to a flood. Because obviously you're smart enough to know that when something floods, all it does is get wet, and then when it drains, it's still there. It doesn't get swept over. And just today, I read the tablet that says about the flood sweeping over, not pouring, sweeping, because it was a tsunami, which makes more sense that everything did get covered over, and it did. And we've got evidence under Jericho. They found 2 years ago, they found a city which was buried. So you only get that with a deluge. You wouldn't get that with a flood per se, with rain. So yeah, that was nothing to do with the nukes. Was nothing to do with the flood. Andrews wrote Nephilim. I'm guessing that's a question because you haven't actually put anything after that. Nephilim were the offspring off of the Anunnaki and human people that they'd created some time before, and some of them ended up having gigantism. That's my own conclusion. No one else has said that, so if I'm right, another medal in the office for me. But it makes sense because not all of the offspring were giants, but some were. And of course the adults, the father generally would have been an Anunnaki, which would have been, wait for it, 8 to 12 foot tall. So when the giants were taller than 8 to 12 foot tall, then you've got a Nephilim. So yeah, they were genuine. Rov has wrote, the vast area of Trinonite glass is still to be found in the southern Sinai. Yeah, again, same point that I was just talking about with the nuclears. In fact, Einstein was aware of the green glass as well. I remember reading something that he said, not back then, it was in a newspaper. I'm going back late 80s. So yeah, somewhere he had mentioned the green glass in the past, so he was aware of it as well. Rove has wrote, the Anunnaki tried to destroy the Nephilim on Earth before they left, same as on Mars a long time ago. Oh, Roy, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Sorry, I really don't want to sound rude or condescending, because obviously wherever you got this from isn't the original tablets. It's probably someone on YouTube or something. But no, so they weren't happy with the giants, absolutely, because if you read the original text, they started, they were all right to start with, and then eventually they started eating all the livestock, all the fish. It says it in the tablets. Literally, they ate them out of house and home, and then they started to eat each other and people, and that's when obviously it went south. So where you say, sorry, so that was that part, and then you say, same as on Mars a long time ago. In other words, tried to destroy the Nephilim. There was no Nephilim on Mars. The Agigi, or Agigi, who were on Mars, which is basically another name for the younger Anunnaki, or the ones on Mars anyway, and that translates to watching something. I can never remember the second part of it. Watch my videos, I do cover it. So the Anunnaki were the Watchers, which were the fallen angels, which were the sons, the sons of gods, which technically God is plural for Elohim, and Elohim is the race name for the Anunnaki, so it all makes sense. So the sons of God took unto them the daughters of man. Now, obviously, the sons of God were Elohim, so Anunnaki stole human women, which is exactly what it says in the tablet. That says in tablets about them coming down and stealing women. So Rovers wrote, "That's all I have to say. Look for flood scars. It's the last tip." And then Rov just disappeared. So unfortunately, Rov kind of knew. Let's be honest, he knew he was in the wrong and followed someone on YouTube, which is really sad because then I get people saying rubbish, really, because they followed someone on YouTube that also said rubbish. Oh, and in fact, before I even come on did the live tonight, I was looking at, there was a young female that pretends to know absolutely everything and said that in 2.5 months alien ships are going to come here. So I posted on that post, I was being polite, and I said, okay, I hope everyone remembers this video in 3 months' time, meaning she hasn't got a clue. And I've listened to her before, and you know, she's pretty and she gets lots of followers. In fact, some of my followers, I saw some of my followers giving her hearts and thumbs up on her page, but she really hasn't got a clue. I'm not going to name names because I'm not that kind of person, but to be fair, and I know this sounds really rude, so far I've not come across anyone on TikTok or even YouTube that has the knowledge that I have that can be backed up, where I keep pointing to things instead of just guessing. I mean, even Billy Carson, like I started this live talking about how bad he is. You know, literally, he just seems to make up stuff. So, and I can debunk. You know, I could sit there and debunk everyone, but I'm not like that. Choppers wrote, the Richards must have been another city. No, there's no evidence whatsoever of any buildings there. None. You'll get probably some numpty on the internet saying there is, and then you ask them where that information come from, and they just, because I go by facts. If you listen to me or watch my videos, you see I go by facts or logic, and logic says when you've just got a circle in Africa and it's not sunken, how does that become Atlantis? That's literally it. There's no buildings, no structures, no sunken city, nothing, zero, zilch, nada, compared to what I talk about, where I'm actually pointing to actually things that match older or old ancient texts, as opposed to Plato, which literally got the information from a friend who got it from a priest who got it from 9,000 years before, and none of this was written down, and Plato ended up, as a writer, don't forget he was a writer, taking that information, and there's no way he would have been able to go advanced, flood, city, circles. That's the three things that's really you would have got from that. But if you read his 2 books, which takes you about 2 hours to read, so that's a hell of a lot of information that was passed down 9,000 years in hieroglyphics, because it was in Egypt, which it wasn't, obviously, because I mean, it was in Egypt, but it wasn't on hieroglyphics, but imagine it was. And the story talks about, when Plato's version talks about what it smelt like walking along, and the depth of one of these particular lakes and the width of one of these particular lakes and all this kind of stuff, that would not be in hieroglyphics. No way. So unfortunately, YouTubers or other researchers literally don't have a clue when they use Plato as their source of information. So when I did it, I said, okay, let's see what I can match with something else that Plato had said. And the only 3 things that can match was circular city, because the Anunnaki built them in concentric circles, Emerald tablets of Thoth, which I could match with, being advanced because he was Ningazida, who was the smartest builder there, so his city would have been advanced. And sunken, because obviously the Heraclean is sunken, so they're the only three things you can really take from Plato. And so I used pure skill and logic. I know it sounds like I'm really being big-headed tonight, but when I watched all these other people's videos and everything else, it just frustrates the hell out of me because they can't point to anything, and they just keep coming out with Plato's versions. And of course, I could debunk them by using Plato's other versions that they don't add in. So yeah, Roy's row you win. Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, I know I'm feeling a bit big-headed tonight, aren't I? Choppers wrote, love your work, keep it up, thanks. You really got to listen to that flood reading that I did today. I know it's on my Patreon page, but it is phenomenally accurate. I mean, literally, Sitchin said it. So you've got, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I obviously, as I read it, I explain various people and what they're up to and what certain things meant, because obviously if you haven't researched any of the Anunnaki stuff, then you might sort of struggle with it. But I've done that hard work for you. I've done the research, and as I read it out, I'm saying this is why, this is where, this is who, this is why, and it's, you know, it basically says, and this is just one of the many tablets that I'll be going through, literally talks about the flood, and it even says Enki says he's not going to allow his creatures to perish. That's just one of the many things that it says in those tablets that I read out on a Patreon video. So yeah, I mean, it's bang to rights. You know, we've got Anunnaki. You can't make that crap up. You know, thousands and thousands of years ago. So yeah, Louisa, forgive me if I get it wrong. Do you think we are all riddled with entities due to their manipulations? It's an interesting question. Go to the top of the class for that. I would probably say we've obviously got the light energy beings that join with us. These become spirits eventually, or consciousness, if you want to call it that, or I don't know what you want to call it, but basically it's a hard drive that joins with us, and a light energy being that's I call a hard drive because that's basically what it does. Joins with us, stores all the memories and everything else. Then when we die, we're in control of that hard drive. We float around, and then eventually we have to cross over, or the spirit, the light energy being has to cross over to the next plane of existence, and then it goes back round into someone else. So that's the only entity. However, we have been manipulated so many times since approximately, obviously the Anunnaki manipulated us, and also manipulated us again, where we've got these elongated skulls in Peru and Paracas, and even in Lake Titicaca that was found, and even in, wait for it, near Stonehenge, which I doubt if you guys know. And those elongated skulls, you know, there's people out there that say, no, they're just headboarding, and they really do keep waffling on about that. But you can't add extra volume to a headboarded skull, and you can't remove particular sutras that we all have. Every single person, even deformed people, have certain sutras in their head, which basically fuse together when you're about 30 odd. And these skulls are fused together when they're about 5. They're missing certain sutras, and even what was it, a 3-month-old baby with this elongated skull, genuine elongated skull, had teeth, a couple of teeth still, and they scientifically looked at the teeth and they said, hang on a minute, these teeth belong to a 10-year-old, even though the teeth are still in the skull of this. So genetically created. And my next task is to work out what hominid had elongated skulls in order for the Anunnaki to mix the human DNA, which they'd already, or humans that they'd already created, with another species. Because I doubt if, especially if they're in England, etc., I doubt if they allowed well, humans did breed with other hominids. We know that. That's a fact. There's skeletons, etc., that show that. So we did, and all the other hominids bred with everything else. But the elongated skull ones, we've not got any hominids with elongated skulls, e.g. Neanderthal, Homo erectus, whatever. None of those got. So I need to find out what other creature had an elongated skull in order for the Anunnaki to have mixed their DNA. That's my take on that. So that's going to be something that I'll be pursuing until I hopefully find an answer. I may not, but Peach is for evening sensei. Hi, Peach. Looking forward to Sunday with Philomena. Oh, bless you. Yeah, she's fantastic. If anyone's interested in Rh negative blood, she is fantastic. She knows everything. She kind of agrees with me that it was the Anunnaki blood, so in other words, it's an alien blood type. But she goes way into it in terms of what people experience by having Rh negative blood, which is really weird. You know, some the heightened ESP and all sorts of stuff, which I find absolutely fascinating. So I'll be doing a live on Sunday, 8 p.m. UK time, with Philomena, but you can go and check her out. She's called on TikTok, she's called Blue Moon Sigma. So I'm just scrolling down. Grimy is right. Hi, bro. Hope you're good. Hi, Grimy. I don't recognise your name, but maybe it's one of the. So many TikTokers end up with different names, and they say, "Oh, it's blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Oh, right, okay." So I don't know whether you are someone I remember, but either way, I'm good, thank you, and hope you are too. And in fact, I hope everyone is. Octiz has wrote, "What's the Great Flood?" So the Great Flood, in historical terms, was a flood that happened a long time ago in antiquity that wiped out majority of the people, humans, and if you go by the biblical sense, it's where Noah was told to build an ark by God, but of course we've got the actual physical tablet that predates the Bible in the British Museum, where it says Enki tells. Now, the very interesting part of this is the difference between, hold on to your papers here, everybody, the difference between Sitchin and Irving Finkel. So, Zachariah Sitchin, as you may know, read and spoke different languages. So, he's fantastic. Ivan Finkel, I don't know how many languages he speaks, but I know he can read Sumerian. Chances are that's probably the only language because I've listened to him talking about when he was 6 and he decided to learn a new language and then found out that there's a language called Sumerian. So he went into that and ended up becoming the curator of the British Museum. Now, this is a fight-off between Sitchin and the curator of the British Museum. So when the curator of the British Museum reads out the tablet where Enki, not God, not Lord, Enki tells Noah, Ivan Finkel's version of his name, because obviously Noah's not the correct translation. The correct translation, according to Ivan Finkel, is Artrahasis. So, in other words, Noah's name, according to Ivan Finkel, is Artrahasis. However, Sitchin had said his name was Zazudra. Now, Zazudra was a king. So that's probably why Ivan Finkel decided that that's not the right name. Maybe. I'm just throwing it out there. So we've got two opposing names. Who do you think is right? Zazudra or Artrahasis? Well, I can tell you who's right because I read the tablet today. It is Sitchin. And it reads, literally the flood tablets read that Zazudra was inside the craft and, the ship, the boat. Zazudra was, and, they Utu went down, cut a hole in the boat, because if you go back to the tablet that British Museum's got, it tells Sazudra, not Artrahasis, it tells Sazudra to make the round ship, not round as in a ball, but sort of like a donut, but without the middle, to make it airtight. So when you got the story of the throwing the, I don't know if you guys know the story of like putting the birds out. They flew the birds out, and if they didn't come back, that means they probably died. And if they did come back, they probably found land and then come back. So prior to that, we have Utu, which was, if anyone knows the history, is Ayana's twin brother, and he was the one that came down, cut a hole in the boat. This is what it says on the tablets. I read it out. It's on my Patreon page if you're interested, or go to the Oxford University and read it there yourself. He cuts a hole in the. Physically, I'm reading out exactly as it's translated, which is pretty close to probably what it actually says. So he cuts a hole in the boat, and Suzudra's over the moon. The fact that the Anunnaki didn't leave him. Obviously, he didn't know them as Anunnaki, but they didn't leave him. And Sazudra offers him cattle and a sheep as a thank you for coming to save him, because obviously at this point they were still in the dark because they had no lights in the boat. Sorry. And the next passage carries on this tablet. It's crazy, and it says Utu went in, and I think the word was something similar to went in with rays. Now, obviously, it's not a ray gun because that's not what he's there for. So, what kind of rays would there be in a dark boat? What would you take in if you're going into somewhere that's got no lights? Yeah, a torch of some description. So he went in there with rays, which obviously would have been, because back then they didn't have torches or names for things like that. Certainly not like an LED torch, but he went in there with rays, which clearly, again, this is why I say the translation. This is why when I read them, I can sort of go through the logic of what the missing word really should be, because obviously he can't just turn up and have been glowing himself. So it would have been some sort of device. So yeah, so that's the Great Flood, which really did happen. And we've got, literally tablets that talk about it, literally tablets that, and I'm going to be going through them all. So I know they're on my Patreon page, but I'm going to go through them all. And I've read some of them years ago, but going back through them now is especially with a little bit more knowledge that I now have, absolutely fascinating to think that even if they're wrong and fake, who the hell would have wrote that kind of story back then in clay tablets and had hundreds of thousands of other tablets talking about Enki and Enlil and so on, done over however many hundreds of years or thousands of years, where they keep talking about the same characters, Enlil, Enki and stuff. It's just, it has to be real. Liam's wrote, only just joined, missed loads, gutted, love your talk content. Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you very much. I only started probably, I don't know, half hour ago. Well, I've lost track of time. But thank you very much. That's good. I like that. Liam's right. How many years do they live for, the Anunnaki? So on their own planet, approximately 100 years, which is not much different from us. However, when they come here, if they slept for 7 days and waked for 7 days, that would just be one day of their on their planet. So if they came here and slept and stayed awake for 7 days, that's one day on their planet. So if they stayed here and did that and slept 7 days, blah, 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 they'd still only live to 100 in their terms. But if they took it that, I mean, I'm sort of beating around the bush, you get where I'm going, but if they took it that, they stayed awake day in, day out, nighttime, went asleep and got up the next morning, as we do, then their longevity of life would be about 1,000,000 of our years, which is ridiculously long, but, a gnat lives for about 15 days, a little fly gnat. So that would look at us as immortal, because obviously, and then if it had children, it would pass that down and say, look at those humans, they're immortal. And then those children will say, well, my great 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 grandfather remembered looking at this tall human, with blue eyes or whatever, and so they would call us immortal. However, we're not immortal, because we only live for, give or take 100 years. So that's how long they live for, really. Scanlet has wrote, yes, we are lucky. Liam's wrote, we have to more open-minded to all the tablets and texts from years ago. I'm guessing we have to be more. I'm with you there, but not. I was walking past some people the other day, actually, down the shops, and there was 2 people standing there with Watchtower magazines, and I was on my own, and I was so tempted to walk up to them and just say to them, do you know anything about the Anunnaki or Sumerian tablets? I really wanted to. But I didn't, because I felt that was a bit rude. But the point is, I think not many people realise that we actually have the tablets, physically have the tablets in museums, and they get loaned to the Louvre and universities, etc. But they all end up back at the main museums. So yeah, I don't know how to educate people, but Scanlet's right. You may answered it last stream, but did the Nazis have contact with Greys or other? I don't think it was Greys. So yes, I do believe they did, because they ended up having technology that was Admiral Byrd had seen that they had. So there's two options who the Nazis dealt with. One is the Dracos, the Draconis reptilian type ones, or the Aryans, which were supposedly blonde hair and blue eyes, which is really weird, because obviously Hitler wanted to have the Aryan type race and wipe out everyone else. However, he didn't have blonde hair himself, which is a bit weird. But yeah. So those would have been 2. Just Grimmy's giving me a star. Thank you very much. And a key. Jonas wrote, if the creator of everything forewarned the Anunnakis about the flood, or it knew the future, or because it knew Nibiru, what Nibiru can cause. So let me just try and remember how the sequence of everything that happened. The creator of so the creator of everything would have only dealt with through Galzu, which was supposedly an emissary of the creator of everything. And now I'm trying to rattle my brains now. Did Galzu warn them of the flood? I don't. I think he did. Did he? I'm trying to remember. Sorry, I'm trying to remember now. Oh, you got me on that one. I'm trying to rattle my brains now whether it did or not. Let's assume he did then. I'm still struggling trying to think if he did. I can't remember. I know they set up watch posts in in Atlanta or near Antarctica to watch for the flooding that's going to happen. Sorry, I'm just trying to fiddle around with my phone here, as you can probably tell. That's over here. Sorry, yeah, sorry, my phone overheats. My boy's nicked my tablet, which I bought just for TikTok, and he keeps using it, little sod. So would he have warned for? So I'm just going through your message again. If the creator of everything forewarned the Anunnaki about the flood, it knew the future. Or, well, yeah, I mean, if you go by the dream that Enlil had later on after the flood, he dreamt that...
Email message.
Sorry.
There is an email message.
He dreamt that Galzu appeared to him and forewarned him of Marduk having, you know, the big battles and the nuclear weapons being used, etc. So, yes, the creator of everything would know the future if that's the case. So, yeah, good question. Go top of the class for that. 666 has wrote, elongated human is binded that way, though, sir. Hopefully you heard me mentioning that not only the sutras, but also with the position of where the skull would fit on the neck is not correct either. And then also the volume of the skull that's is bigger, larger than any headboarded skull, because you can't increase the volume of the actual skull by head binding. Now, there were head binding people, and these were the poor people that copied the notability people. So the ones that had higher social structure seem to have the original true elongated skull, and these are found in, you know, certain places. But the ones that were headbound were literally poor people, no graves or anything at all. So, you know, and obviously we've even got headbound people even to this day in certain African countries, etc. So when we can easily compare a modern headbound skull to a one that's not a human one per se, then, you know, there is differences. There's not, you know, it's not all it could be. I mean, literally, you can't have sutras that fuse before you're 30-ish, you know, fuse when you're 5, and miss a sutra. You can't. You just can't do that with head binding. So 666. You might want to look a bit more into it. Brian Forrester does an excellent video on it for, I don't know, an hour and a half. And he's actually physically seen the two types of skulls, etc., the headbound and the things, and took pictures of them, as well as other scientists and researchers, etc., etc. Now, if you think they're head binded, let me just throw something out to you then. If you think they're head binding, why did the Malta Museum have one and kept it under lock and key at the back of their museum if it's just a simple headbound? And when they pulled it out and showed Giorgio Taloculus, he was like, wow, the sutras are missing, the size of it and all the other various different attributes that this has got. That is why the Malta Museum had it hidden. Thank you, Cyan, for the rose. Now, if you go to my Patreon page, I know it's a paid for thing, unfortunately. You can watch some. There's some videos on there that's free. But I actually did a follow-up to that video that Giorgio done. And I found some absolutely fascinating information regarding that skull that he looked at back then on his program called In Search of Aliens. Now, I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, because it's on the Patreon page, but it is fascinating, and it again proves that the skull they had there, without a shadow of a doubt, is not a head-bound skull. So, 666 Rose Denivisms. No, well, I would probably say no, because Denivisms are hominids, and for a hominid to take a power position, meaning smarter than the regular folks, they probably didn't have the brain power to do that. And also, if you believe in mainstream science, the Denivisms, they've already found skeletons of, checked out the DNA and called them Denivisms, and none of those ones had elongated skulls. Junas wrote 2666, the larger Anunnaki skulls are larger than humans know. Funny enough, I've looked into that, and so far I can't, other than the back of it, which is obviously larger than a human skull. You can't suddenly add extra bone just by head bounding. None of the skulls that I've come across would fit a 12-foot person, in e.g. an Anunnaki. So, in other words, they're approximately 6 foot people, heads that belong to 6 foot people. Obviously, there's younger ones that have died and whatever, but as an average, so a normal size skull, but with the extra bit of bone and the elongated skull. So they're only larger in terms, unless someone's got some that's hidden that I've not found. Just scrolling down. Octiz is right. My mother is Rh negative. She has a lot of health problems. I can tell you that they're Anunnaki. I can tell you that they come from Mesopotamia 100,000 years ago. I can tell you mainstream say that. I can tell you the tablets say that. I can't tell you more than that, really. I can tell you about the Basque people, but I can't tell you about health issues with Rh negative. The person you need to talk to would be Philomena, which her TikTok handle is Blue Moon Sigma. I am doing a live with her on Saturday at 8 p.m. Everyone loves her. I love her. I think she's fantastic. So feel free to join us or go and hunt her out and ask questions. She knows everything. Grimy has wrote, what's King of Kings mean? It's a good question, actually. Let me just have a drink while I think of the answer to that. That was a really good question. Really good question. Sorry, just dropped something. I would send you to the top of the class for that. Really good question. So well done. So the way I see it is, everything that I've read is kingship was given to humans. In other words, the Anunnaki didn't really have kingship. So the humans would have been the kings. So to be a king of the kings of kings, if there was such a thing, would probably be someone like Sazudra, who was one of the few humans left after the flood. There were more than him. It says so in the tablets. So I would have said someone like him, who would have been, the first king again after the flood. So yeah, that's probably, it's a really good question. Maybe, if I come across other things to do with that, I'll make a note of that in my head. That's a really good question. Scrolling down, Rubens wrote opinions on chakras and the third eye. Okay, so the third eye, which obviously everyone knows is Horus's eye, and the little dot in the center and whatnot, that is to do with the pineal gland from my research, and not just mine, but if you look, you'll find even Buddhists, certain groups and scientists, etc., all end up agreeing that the pineal gland seems to be the eye Horus or the third eye, and that's because it's got many different functions on it that actually can allow us to receive and transmit frequencies outside of our body. So in other words, it's like a little transistor radio, but or a CB, should I say, where you can send and receive messages. So that's pretty much a fact. That's using certain types of crystals that it's got on it and everything else. So it's not me making all that up. You can go and look that up. So that gives us the ability sometimes, when it's not calcified by having fluoride, Yes, it does cause a problem, scientifically proven, as well as various other things. There's people out there that will tell you how to detox your pineal gland. But go back before we was forced to have fluoride in our waters by governments, we would have been more in tune with the spirits that join with us. In other words, the light energy beings that join with the pineal gland when we're in the mother's womb. So we would have been more in tune with various things going on back then, as opposed to us now eating all these processed foods and whatever else that's causing us problems. And again, the Sumerians used to talk about seeing spirits as if they're in the room with them. So we've been dumbed down, and I think everyone can probably agree with that by the way the chemtrails and the we're going to help you with your teeth. We're going to put fluoride in the water, even though it causes dementia and Alzheimer's. Fact, by many institutions have agreed now that is actually 100% the case. So yeah, our pineal gland is the third eye and a chakra. I'm not 100% as an expert on that. I know, Buddhists and various other religions, you talk about the chakras. Some have slightly more. They believe there's slightly more chakras than other people do. What is a chakra? I'm not an expert. I would probably say, from just my own opinions, that it's a force that we have, like a shield that surrounds us and possibly other animals and everything else. So just like we have, 5 senses, smell, touch, taste, see, for example, we might have another one that is protecting us from, a sixth thing that we can't actually see. For all we know, it could be, type of frequencies, such as the light energy beings, that their frequencies, obviously the sun, it could be, the chakra could be helping us not have the neutrinos and the protons and whatever else comes from the sun going right through us very easily. Could be so I don't know exactly what they're for, but I'm sure there's people out there that will hopefully tell you. Scrolling down, people chat to each other. Repatriate. Repatriate. That was that singer, wasn't it? Repatriate, or song. Has wrote, I'm from Oxford. Hi there. Hopefully, if you've been to the Oxford University, they had the tablets. They've given them back now. Majority of them, as far as I'm aware. But they had the tablets and they've translated them. So hopefully you're learning Sumerian language yourself at Oxford University. If not, I guess you're just from Oxford. But that's either way, you're welcome here. Fake as wrote to Octez. Yes, unfortunately, we do get issues with RH blood. I've had arthritis and fibromyalgia at 12. Wow, that's early. Have you Fake? Have you talked to... If you haven't, talk to Philomena, Blue Moon Sigma. She's fantastic on that. Just scrolling down. 666 wrote stingrays. Stingrays? I don't know what stingrays is, sorry. Scrolling down. Andrea's wrote, didn't the Great Flood take out the giants? Yes, it did. It wasn't a premeditated act. It was when Nibiru was coming back round. They knew, this is why I don't think Galzu told them, they knew that the ice shelf was going to break off because of the gravitational force of their home planet coming back round, and it would wipe out the humans and giants and animals, which is why Enki went and collected the DNA samples of many animals 2 by 2. Yeah, that's where it comes from, and put it in the actual boat that Noah built, or Zazudra built, as his real name is. So yeah, it did take out the giants. Now, sorry to the person that's asking me some sort of Arab name. I can't read it. Forgive me. I get a lot of Arabs wanting to chat. It's forgive me if you're not an Arab, but that's kind of looks like an Arabic name. Steffi's wrote, hi Steffi. Grimmy has wrote The People in Charge. I'm not sure what I was talking about back then. Sorry. People chatting to each other. Just run down. Build Wealth has wrote, are the reptilian aliens evil? So what I've heard is that there's technically two types. There's the, dare I say it, royal ones, which are the taller, stronger. They wear capes. They have horns, two horns on the head, and they have a center ridge, a bit like Worf out of Star Trek. Now they're evil, supposedly, or when you say evil, they power hungry. They'll go from planet to planet. That's what I've heard from them. Now they have smaller reptilian humanoids that don't have the ridges, don't wear the capes, and don't have the horns, and they're the worker bee ones. So I guess you could say, just like a giant, queen bee or a queen ant, the royal ones seem to have. I don't know whether that's two different species or not, but if I'm just throwing it out there that some of our species on our planet, they have bigger ones when there's a collective of that group. Now the smaller ones, from what I've heard, are not evil. They just do what they're told. So take that as you will. Certainly, out of all the aliens I've ever heard about, the Dracos are the ones that's the problem, basically, which are the reptilian ones. Just run down. Grimey's wrote, what does King of Kings mean? Hopefully I kind of answered the fact that I don't really know officially, because to be honest, could that have just been a more modern saying? I don't know. Liam's wrote, surely there has to be, stop calling me Shirley. Surely there has to be some 10th ball. These tablets that are in the museums, OTB mad? I don't know. Sorry, I'm just trying to read it again. Surely there has to be some, I'm guessing that's truth, these tablets that are in the museums. Somehow it's TEUTHBALL. I don't know what so maybe truth. Yeah, I mean, you can't have tablets that tell us stuff that we didn't know about, and then 200 years after finding the tablets, we then find out the tablets were right about things in space. That solidifies it for me. Gray has wrote, what was the name? Sorry, what was up with the games ceremony? Don't know what that's referring to. Sorry, you got me on that one, Gray. I don't know if that's a modern thing or I've never heard of an Anunnaki having a games ceremony. Obviously, the Greeks did, but Steffi's wrote to 666. Normally I don't read them out, but it caught my eye. I really enjoy this gentleman's live. And she called me a gentleman as well. I identify as a god. I'm joking. That's very nice of you. Thank you very much, Steffi. Grayers wrote, what's up with the Commonwealth Games ceremony? Okay, that's where I couldn't understand. I don't know. I've not looked into any things with the Commonwealth. I'm guessing there's a conspiracy there for you to have said that. So I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. Someone else might. 666 wrote back to Steffi, I haven't listened to him much. That said, I'm impressed by him. Oh, thank you very much. His 40 years is finally paying off, even though I do get people that say, you all together now, 40 years wasted. But, I think I can hold my own in a debate. In fact, Minute Man, who has 1 million followers, who debunks people like me, has seemed to have disappeared when I challenged him to a live debate. He's just done a runner. So I don't think we'll ever see him again in that way. I'd love to have not a debate with Billy Carson, but I know I keep going on about him, but I just saw a video before I come on live, and I saw a 3-minute video of him, and literally everything he said, I could not only use logic, but point to evidence where he's wrong. So I'd love to have a chat with him, because even if he says something and I don't know of it, and again, it sounds very big-headed, but I think I have a very quick, logical brain, and I can point out, just like I did. So I've done a video, actually. I did a stitch with part of what he said. I don't normally do that, but it was just infuriating, where he basically says Neanderthal had 100% DNA. Anunnaki created them, and us gave us only 2%. So I was like, that doesn't make sense, because obviously we have 100% DNA, but 98% is junk, and he's saying that 98% junk was what the Anunnaki cut out of us. So I'm saying, my point is, so is he actually genuinely saying that we're running on 2% DNA as humans, more intelligent than the 100% DNA of a Neanderthal? It doesn't make sense. Liam's wrote, even me kissed learning from you, Gich. Last few months, it seems true to me. You're a brilliant teacher. Thank you very much. Sorry if I read that verbatim, but sometimes I do, because I don't know what the word is supposed to be in between, where it seems to spell checked differently. But thank you very much for saying that. That's brilliant. Really nice to hear. And hopefully you're going to be watching the videos. I've put the first one up already. I might put the second one up. There's 5 videos where I explain about the granite boxes that the Anunnaki had, and all 5 videos are done, and I'm looking forward to people's reactions. 90% of people say, I knew it, but they didn't obviously put it together, and they didn't think of the actual particular thing that I'm thinking, or that I researched and show. But they a lot of people, I know I'm alluding to it, but there's a lot of people out there that have already said the end result, but they don't know how they got there, and they don't know what the box is for, specifically, and why it was made like it is. Whereas hopefully now, when these 5 videos come out, again, our true history has... I know I do sound big-headed, but I really am proud of things. Okay, I'm scrolling on. Fake's saying to someone that I do really read all the questions. I really honestly do. Lewis has wrote, did the flood help out the Anunnaki? For sure. Okay, good question. Go number 2 in the class. And the reason why I think it's a good question is because prior to that, yes, there was, however many humans on Earth, as well as giants. And we were becoming a bit unruly, I would say, from all my research, where there's factions that went to different countries and whatever else, and just walked off, where they had kids. Obviously, the Anunnaki were only a handful of people in the big scheme of things, 2,000 probably max. So they weren't everywhere all the time, so they couldn't stop people from wandering off and doing whatever. So the time of the flood was a particularly bad time, because at that point, there was lots of humans, and Enlil actually said that the humans were making too much noise. Now, as he tries to sleep. Now, my take on that, thinking about it, actually, you've just made me use my brain again. So when I said earlier, did the Anunnaki sleep for 7 days and 7 nights, as per their home? Now, if everyone went asleep at night, then the humans wouldn't make much noise at night. So you've helped me answer the question. Yes, they would have slept for 7 nights, which would have equated for 7 days for the humans to be banging around. and building things and shouting and doing whatever they want to do over in the Middle East at that point. So thank you for that, Lewis. You've just solidified something for me. So it makes sense. If everyone's asleep, then they're not going to be noisy. But if they're asleep and everyone's awake, makes sense. So brilliant. So yes, it did help them out to the point that there was too many people. The giants were really causing a problem. And so, but after they were sad, I read the tablet today. It's on the Patreon page. They were sad. They lamented. So they were sad that people were dying and they're people that they created. So the answer to your question is, before they were more than happy for us to die. As we died, they kind of changed their tune and thought this is kind of sad. And then once they found Noah, etc., still, and other humans, they were like, oh, great, okay, we can help them. And then later on, their dad came down from Nibiru and said, we'll teach them everything, humans, and let them inherit the earth. So, yes, it did help them out to a point, and then they realised that maybe it was a mistake in the first place. Grimy has wrote, sorry, what does King of Kings mean? Hopefully you've heard me mention that. Andy Spirit has wrote, think I've sussed your question on the tower chamber on the Great Pyramid with the containers. Brilliant. Okay. You would probably be the second person in history, modern history, to have worked it out. So I would love to know your thoughts, if you can let me know what the containers are for. Sorry, just scrolling down, people chatting to each other. Fake's doing his usual fantastic job. Bear has wrote, when will the Anunnaki return? They won't return. They're already dealing with our military. They're not going to come down and see us. They've been here, done that, got the T-shirt, and created us. So they're not. There's no benefit to them coming here, for any reason other than to trade with people that's got technology. And me and you haven't got technology. The military have got technology, so they trade with them. So anyone that says the Anunnaki are going to return, and anyone that gives you a date, just laugh at them. I mean, there's a book on Amazon that says the Anunnaki will return in June 2022. That person's now changed that. I can guarantee you changed it, because he was on the 10th revision already. Changed it to 2023, and he'll just keep doing it every year. Genius idea, to be fair with you, but people that don't know any different will read that book and say, oh my god, the Anunnaki are coming in June. And of course they didn't. So if anyone gives you a date, laugh at them, because there's no way the Anunnaki is going to say to us humans, hey, look, even if we've got telecommunications between Nibiru and Earth, hey, look, pencil us in, we're going to come down in June, your June, so we've got our little calendar ready. It'll take us, a year to get to you. Pencil us in. And what we'll do is we'll have a little tour. We'll go around with Jeff Dunham and do some ventriloquisms around the world and stuff. No, they won't do all of that. They're not going to do that. 666 wrote, did I hear you totally destroy what I wrote after I wrote it before you even got to it? Possibly. Sorry. 666, thank you, Out of History, you're a legend. Oh, thank you very much. You can probably tell when especially like today when I did one of those Patreon videos where I'm reading the, not Sitchin's translations, or technically his Lost Book of Enki isn't a translation, it's a combining of the text with his own words, whereas today on my Patreon page, I read out on video a tablet that's translated almost word for word as it should be from Sumerian. So when I read that, you can just tell how excited I get. When I'm reading it and I'm pointing out things that probably no one else has even picked up on. Not that many people's probably even read them, but you know, I like thinking, as you probably can tell, and so to see things other people can't see, it gives me a kick, and that's another reason why I probably do this as well. Again, I might be completely wrong, so just bear that in mind. But so far, 900 odd videos, not one person's debunked me, not one person's done a stitch. Well, actually, to tell a lie, one person did do a stitch, and they nicked the beginning part of my wording, and then I had to write on there and said, look, you actually have taken that out of context. You need to watch the whole minute video plus the one before, because at the beginning of the video that he stitched, I said, in my previous video, and he's took that one, and so I had to say to him, look, you can't just take something without learning the full details of it. But anyway, so yeah, that was the only person I think that I can recall that's ever took me and tried to debunk me. Faker's given me the time as 8:04, so I'm 20 odd minutes behind. Forgive me, everybody. I'm going to try and go a bit quicker. I always say that, I never do. 666 says, right, what's fascinating is your extensive knowledge. Oh, thank you. I didn't. Do you know what the funny thing was? I didn't think I had an extensive knowledge until. I know it sounds again big-headed. My phone's really hot. Until about 2015, when I was listening to Coast to Coast, and I kept shouting at the radio, no, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, to these guests that are on Coast to Coast. And I thought, hang on a minute, maybe I actually, either they're right or I'm right. And I was pretty sure I was right. So that's when I kind of realised that I might have some knowledge now that people, even experts, might not have. So I did something in 2016, I'm not going to say what, but I ended up on radio shows, American radio shows, not Coast to Coast, that was the only one I wasn't on, but I was on all the other major ones, with Richard Serrett and Fade to Black and that lot, if you know any of those radio stations. So I was on there for, an hour talking my spiel, as I do. So again, I started to think to myself, especially when Richard Serrett turns around and says, I'm not going to tell you exactly what he says because it gives you a clue as to what I did in 2016. But when he turns around and says, you're actually to be commended for this, he's interviewed how many people, especially on his own show as well as Coast to Coast, and he's telling me I'm the one that should be commended. So at that point, I started thinking, okay. And then, of course, TikTok came along, and I thought, I'm just going to throw out a video and see if anyone's interested. And luckily, because I'm smiling now, so it's done me, a world of good, really. Anyway, sorry, I'm waffling. Reet Petite has wrote thoughts on reincarnation. Funny you should ask that. Again, I will talk about it, but on my Patreon page, I'm doing a series, I think I'm up to 8 or 9 now, segments, basic videos, about everything you need to know about spirits. And reincarnation is one of those segments where I literally go through cases, I go through where evidence is, and various different things. So yes, reincarnation is 100% true. If you want to look into it yourself, the best place I would suggest is Virginia University. And when I say university, it is not, the kids doing it, it's the actual adults, and there's no kids involved in the reincarnation research. And that reincarnation research was funded by the guy that created Xerox. Anyway, they also do they looked into past life regressions and various other spiritual things. But so reincarnation, yes. So basically, that's where your spirit, that's a spirit, I call it spirit, but light energy being the entity, joins with you, absorbs absolutely every memory you've got, and then when you die, you're with that orb. And then eventually you cross over, or the orb crosses over, and you lose control. And at that point, you're now just a memory in that orb, just like a hard drive. If you've got a file that said Reet Petite, and then a file that said Joe Blogs and a file, and obviously they're going back, and you would have been the latest one, and then that orb will go round, join again. Now, if you go by the Virginia's University's research, they did 2,500 case studies, 1,200, I think, or 250 of them. There is irrefutable evidence, irrefutable, because as soon as the kid starts talking, he's calling his real mum's name or his other mum's name. He's talking about places, people, blah, blah, blah. There's no way a kid would have learned all of that. So evidence-wise, they take the kid, these researchers take the kid and the family to the place where the kid seems to point to. And of course, lo and behold, the kid's spot on, and he's talking to people with their nicknames and the bullet holes, if someone died. Normally, the past lives come through with trauma. So, a violent death that suddenly happens, such as a gunshot. And a lot of the cases, there is marks, scars, birthmarks on the new child that match where the gunshot would have went in, or in and out. Even there's cases where there's a gunshot was the person killed himself and shot himself under the chin through the head, and the child that said that when they finally found the person and they had the autopsy results, etc., and they looked at the markings exactly where the bullet went in and exited on the skull, the child had, wait for it, a birthmark in the chin exactly the same point, and on the top of the head exactly the same point. So, and there's also deformities where, for example, if someone lost their fingers in one life, when they come back round, their fingers are deformed, and various things like that. So there's definitely a connection between reincarnation and spirits. Obviously, I call them spirits, light energy beings. But it's not you. You don't have that second life. So these children that grow up and say, oh, I used to, you're not my real mummy, my real mummy's blah, blah, blah. And they're generally localized, e.g., they don't see, it's not, you don't need this is what Virginia said, you don't need an aeroplane to go and find the person you was last. You can literally, you drive there. So they're very localized, and there's no rhyme or reason. It could be male, could be female, could be priest, could be fluid, gender fluid. I'm joking. It could be, any denomination of cultures or anything. So it doesn't matter about anything. It just joins with the next one for whatever reason. And in some cases, they when they grew up, that luckily, because there's generally a 2-year gap between dying and getting reincarnated again. Not all the time. That's the shortest that they've found, basically. And because it's just, some of these are short term, meaning happened while we still had cameras. In other words, the person previously was around while we had cameras. We have photographs of the deceased person, unlike, going back 100, 200 years ago when we probably didn't have photographs of them. So the studies looked at the people as they were older, and now that the kids have got older, they're still in communication with the kids that are now adults, and some of them are identical to the person that previously died. That's just mind-boggling. So yes, reincarnation. Feel free to watch my video on the Patreon page. Everything you need to know about spirits. I go into it a lot more than me just talking here. My Patreon page has got some fantastic content. I know I keep going on about it as if like I need the money or something, but it's, my daughter told me to do it because I spend so much time doing this. She said, try and do something which not only gives people stuff, but also, gives you some pocket money for doing it, pays the electric bill, I guess. But anyway, so thank you very much for that. Good question. Grimes wrote Souls. Hopefully you heard me talking about, I do love a full question, only because obviously I have no idea what you know about anything, so I try to avoid people where they ask one word, because but yeah, basically, a soul is a light energy being that joins with you. It's an entity. These are the orbs.
Message. There is an email message.
So if you see an orb floating around, it's either a spirit person that's floating around, and as the orb. Sometimes they can manifest themselves into human form, but other orbs, I mean, I don't know the difference between them, but other orbs may just be a spirit or an entity that hasn't got a person yet and is just floating around looking what's going on. But yeah, the orbs are generally tennis ball sized, and they're found in the house. And this is my research. No one else has said all of this, and I seem to be spot on, because every time I ask people when they see orbs, I say, is it outside? Is it the size of a basketball? And they say, funny enough, yes, it was outside in a basketball. And when people say they see an orb, and I say, was it in the house? Was it tennis ball size? Yeah, oh, yeah, it was. So that's my own conclusion because of my research. So don't let Billy Carson or anyone else tell you any different. It was me that worked all that out. Grimey's wrote love. Not sure if that's a question, but thank you very much. Steffi's wrote, yes, the vow was thinner without fluoride. That's why reincarnation stories happen often in areas. Trying to find the next bit. But yeah, you're right. It does happen, in, dare I say it, third world countries where they don't...
WhatsApp. Someone has sent you a WhatsApp.
Sorry, someone sent me WhatsApp. Yeah, where they don't have fluoride dumped in the water, basically. A lot of these reincarnations are in Middle East and mainly Asia. Very poor areas of Asia. So yeah, that's not to say it's not a worldwide phenomenon. It is, but the research ended up showing, for their research, that Asia has the higher amount of children remembering past lives. Waterworlds wrote, good evening to you. Hi, Waterworld. Funny, interesting name, the fact that there's me talking about floods tonight. And you've got Waterworld. Who remembers that film with Kevin Costner? I kind of liked it. Obviously, if you know me and my logic, as soon as I realised that they're trying to find land, which, what is it, 3/4 water and the rest land on Earth, if you believe it's a globe. And yet the Dennis Hopper character's got fags. I know supposedly there was a massive container ship that's where they got the bullets from. It just so happens the container ship had bullets and petrol for their jet bikes and whatnot. But the cigarettes got me. I just thought, how many do people smoke a day? A container, the water's been there for however long, very long time. They would have run out of fags by now, but that's just me. Sorry. So that was one thing that wound me up a little bit. Big Cause has wrote, processed foods, mixed proteins. Yeah, it's not. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is really to all of that. Yeah. Then they're going to basically, the next thing they're doing is, which you've probably heard already, is the Bill Gates and all, typical, is trying to make us eat insects. In fact, one of our supermarkets had an insect pizza. I think it was Asda, or was it, or something like that? Morrison's, I think it was, is now doing insect pizzas. So basically, there's a push for us. Now, they come out with the crap that it's to do with culling off cattle so that the ozone stays safe. Now, that's why we get these, I was saying the other day on a live, that's why I think there's an agenda behind these climate control protesters. I'm not saying there's not people out there that totally believe in climate issues. That's fine, and I kind of do believe that we're not doing the planet any good. But the level of what these protesters are doing are going to get to a point where the laws are going to be changed just because of those people, which I think some of those are probably in on the government's plans. And anyway, so you know where I'm going with all that. I don't want to depress people. Steffi's wrote, with no fluoride is in India, yes. Big Cause has wrote DNA overload. Not sure what I was talking about for that to be an overload. Sorry. Big Cause wrote, the flood is to protect when the sun drops. So obviously that's not what the ancient texts say. So I'm just trying to guess what you're referring to. The sun is the flood is to protect when the sun drops. I don't know what that means. Even on flat Earth, I've never come across that. And even if the sun dropped, I'm guessing you're saying dropped onto Earth. The sun would destroy Earth in a blink of an eye. So the flood wouldn't protect us from the sun. The sun is, what is it? I can't remember. Something like 80 times the size of Earth. So yeah, it's not, and it's not even near us. So it'd have to shoot forward, go above us, shrink, and then land, and then hopefully the flood will distinguish, or whatever it's called, extinguish. That was it. The sun, which and then even then we're naffed because now we ain't got sun. So I don't know what you were referring to. Sorry. Elim has wrote, you think since young kids have not been too exposed to fluoride, they're able to see spirits? Yes, I do. Yeah, hopefully you heard me earlier. Absolutely. That's not me and my, guessing. That's research that's been done by the Virginia University. As I say, they've looked into all types of spirits side of things, so even near-death experiences, etc., as well as reincarnation, as well as many other things to do with death and spirits, and light tunnels, and the list goes on what they looked into. And so I would agree that that's what it is. They don't technically point to fluoride, but when you do external research from Virginia and you realise that fluoride does cause problems with the pineal gland, it calcifies it. And again, that's not me making that up. That's scientifically proven. Fakers wrote, I've spoken to her. She hasn't replied to what I said yet. Well, hopefully, if you're around on Saturday, I'm doing a live with her. I know it's difficult to read out people's questions, but even on lives, I do try and still read out. So I will hopefully try and point her to yours. 666 wrote, sorry about the stingray comment. I was joking when you were talking about rays. But you couldn't. Yeah, I was so far back. I didn't get that one. Sorry. Grim has wrote, I got love for you, bro. Oh, thank you very much. That's very nice of you. June has wrote, not sure if there's a connection, but I tend to have sleep paralysis when I sleep after eating a lot. I've not looked into, the general normal people's having sleep paralysis. Obviously, I've looked into the people that have had sleep paralysis where they say they see little green men, or little grey men, technically, as the old saying was, green men. But so I can't answer that, I'm afraid. That's interesting. Really, ideally, you want to try and find someone that has looked into proper sleep paralysis. I say proper, you know what I mean, normal ones without aliens involved. So I don't know. Maybe that's something to do with your, the food affecting your brain. For example, obviously I'm just throwing it out there, but for example, like when you go into an operation and they inject you with sedative, and sometimes it takes 5 seconds and you're out. That's because the blood pumps around your body so fast that the sedative gets to your brain. Now, if you was eating certain foods, this is just my logic running through, so don't take this as... So if you was eating certain foods, obviously the time it takes to digest, and some of that chemicals or whatever it is that's inside the food that you're eating gets around your bloodstream. By the time you're sleeping, certain parts of that may be actually affecting, just like the injection sedative, where literally you're out and you can't, but you're totally out. The food may be actually affect. So that's just my thoughts on it. I might be wrong, but I like to think like that. Liam's wrote, Elim, sorry mate, I'm registered partially blind. That my writing is hard to read. No worries, no worries. I mean, if you can read mine, then you're doing better than me. So, no, I'm sorry to hear that you are. But no worries at all. I never judge anyone, even though I get judged myself a hell of a lot when I spell something wrong. I will never judge anyone unless they've already knocked me down. Then I sort of try and knock them back down. But Grimes wrote, "You are a god." Well, do you know my Google played up because I've had to switch in different broadband router. Hey Google, what's my name?
Your name is God.
I know she still loves me. I was frightened that she wouldn't call me God anymore, but she still loves me. Grimes wrote, "You sound like a good guy." Oh, thank you. If I am. And I'm not saying that to be bigoted or whatever, but if I had a pound or penny even for everyone that said you're too nice, then I would, I wouldn't need to do my Patreon page. But yeah, no, there's no point in being nasty. I try and be happy as much as I can. Water Wells wrote, "Good evening to you all. Good afternoon to me." I probably won't chat with you today, but I do definitely want to chat with you because I want to go through and I still haven't printed it because I was really busy and I actually left half day today. Alfreda's wrote, "Hello sir, hello class. Sorry I'm late. I was practicing my lines for the movie." Yes, I did see your comment. Yeah, again, because I got so much. I do so much. I don't just sit around until I sit around doing these lives. But I always make myself busy doing stuff. So I haven't actually focused on the movie properly yet. I'm trying to clear other things off that I've got. But the investors are not going to look at it until after Christmas anyway, so I've got time. Just scrolling down. Susie Q has wrote, "You." Hi Susie. Nice of you to join. Steffi's wrote to Alfredo, the Pegasus. Thank you, enjoying this live. He's on fire as usual. Thank you. I don't know how to take that. You're all making me big-headed now. Stop. Google, I'm not God anymore, okay? Just, sorry. June has wrote, "I ordered your book, Black Ops, Aliens, Spirits, Bigfoot, and Our Untold History. Was hoping for an audio book." So the person that wrote that, I did talk to, and they wrote another book as well, which I've advertised, called Epic Journey. It's a fantastic book, trust me. If you it's not fact based, but it's just a sci-fi story, genius story. Anyway, so yeah, this person said that they want to try and get an audio book done on it. So yeah, I'm tempted to reread it and point out things that might, not necessarily be wrong, but probably could be changed. But I don't know if I'm going to have time to do that. But yeah, he definitely wants an audio book of it. So yeah, it would make sense. The downside with audio books is obviously people can just stick them on YouTube, like Paul Sakurai Sitchin's books. Some of them are audio books now on YouTube, which is really sad because, I think his estate, he's passed now, so I think his estate deserves every penny that they get for his work, but that's just the way I am. But yeah. scrolling on. Water Worlds wrote, "Hi there. If you get the opportunity to see, I have requested to come on." Sorry, yeah, I was focusing on the video that I done today for Patreon, which was about the flood. Because literally it nails it. There is no ambiguity with the Anunnaki literally saying the flood. So when the Anunnaki talk about the flood, there was a flood. And when the Anunnaki, when Enki turns around and says, "I'm not going to let my creatures perish." Now, when you read other translations, translations of other texts, tablets, Enki calls the humans his greatest creation, which is us. Yay. So he did, he didn't want to let his creatures perish, and he called us creatures, which is interesting, along with other probably animals that he'd already created, which, until we find out which particular ones they are, I'm sure there was other species that he'd created at that point. Now, obviously, we know about cyclopses, minotaurs, etc., etc. But yeah, sorry. So I was just going to do a little live about hyping up the translation that I done, or reading of that translation on my Patreon page. It is fascinating to read the Anunnaki talking about the flood. It's 20 minutes long, the video, and I'm pointing out various different things, but I don't really need to, because it's there in black and white. If you can understand it, but yeah, it's definitely there. So yeah, sorry, I will, but I still haven't printed my. So I want to do a live chat with Waterworld, because he's on the side that the world's flat, and because I'm writing books to do with flat and globe, I need his input on, and obviously still have a chat about things. But no, I did ask Waterworld earlier. Did you look into? Because we already chatted. I said, did you look into Admiral Byrd, where I mentioned that obviously the flat earthers seem to have negated the part where it says beyond the pole in the South Pole, and they've just gone beyond the South Pole as opposed to beyond the pole in the South Pole. But Waterworld then wrote back saying actually he's not really on the side that Admiral Byrd is talking about flat Earth, so that makes sense then that he won't be able to argue with me or debate with me, because obviously if he doesn't believe that Admiral Byrd's talking about the flat Earth, then technically he's on my side and agrees with me on that. Obviously he still believes that the planet's flat, but doesn't utilise what other people have done from Admiral Byrd, if that makes sense. 666 has wrote, are humans the Agigi then? No. So briefly, Anunnaki are Elohim. So the race of these 8 to 12 foot people on their planet, they're called Elohim. They came here and they split up. Some went to South Africa, some went to Mesopotamia, and some went to Mars as an away station. The king on Nibiru done a broadcast and gave them each names, and the ones on Earth were called Anunnaki, and it translates those from heaven come to Earth. And it's not heaven, it's space, but those from space came to Earth, which makes a lot of sense. Now there is one person that did on my lives the other day did say, could heaven actually be Nibiru? And that's, there's a tiny possibility you could be right. So I'm still going through it, as you know, I'm going through a tablet. So the more I keep looking at it, I'll work out whether or not it's space or Nibiru. But anyway, so those ones here on Earth were called the Anunnaki, and the ones on Mars were called the Agigi, which were called the watching of the skies, or watching of the something, which become the Watchers when they came down and stole our women. How dare they? So no, they're not humans. I'm just trying to think how it would have been for human women suddenly to have these 8 to 12 foot people come and literally say, right, you're going to be my partner or wife or stuff. Now, they probably had relationships with as many women as they probably could, but they did end up actually marrying, even after Marduk married a human. He was the first one to marry a human, but the Agigi, or Agigi, however you pronounce it, they ended up partnering with people. Obviously, their longevity of life means that they would come across like the Highlander, and the poor woman would die before they ever died. But I'm just thinking, imagine, you're out washing your clothes in the lake by the crocodiles, and yeah, crocodiles did take a lot of people in Egypt, a lot. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, could you imagine you're there and then suddenly this 8 to 12 foot man literally steals you and has his wicked way? It's just wrong. I can't imagine them going up to him trying to start up a conversation, because the Aigi were on Mars and they would have still only been talking in the Elohim language, whereas the ones here on Earth, depending on where they were, would have probably been talking either their language, that's even if they were taught their language, because not everyone was taught at that point, or they had different languages because of the Tower of Babel incident. So yeah, it's not like they come down and said, "How you doing?" So they literally would have stolen, which is really annoys me, because when I point that out, as you know, if you've listened to me enough, I talk to people that believe in God, and I always point out, and no one comes back. You can see the messages. I don't delete them. You see them before I do, because I'm behind. So I asked, can you tell me what about the sons of God that stole our women that's in the Bible? And they disappear. So clearly they know that they're in the wrong, because they don't have the answer for it. And obviously I do, because the tablets talk about it. So yeah. Anyway, just scrolling on. Alfredo's wrote, "Sir, is it possible that the granite boxes contain radioactive material?" Alfredo. Tell you what, when you get to the fourth video, pat yourself on the back. But it's... Oh, you're a sod. I really didn't want to give it away. I'm going to have to put the videos out quick now, so that people like Billy Carson or other researchers don't hear of it. And then, so basically, all right, you're gonna hear it live here first. So basically, the granite, turns out that a granite, I'm not going to give you the whole information, but the granite is the best insulator of radiation in the world. So when they take granite from, and that's why they don't, patch it together, that's why they make it out of a whole solid block. When they get the granite from 1,000 miles away, they're doing it for a reason. So well done, Alfredo, you've got it. Watch my videos, because obviously I explain a little bit more, but yes, they're made to house radioactive material. You are spot on. But obviously I've connected it with the fact that the granite is the best at stopping radioactive getting out. Now that's interesting, because also, I don't know if you're aware of this, but your countertops in your kitchen, if they're granite, actually produce radiation. So granite itself produces radiation. Now, guess what? Here's a bit of new information for you. So the buildings in the ancient areas, Mesopotamia, Egypt, etc., many of them are built with basalt, which is another rock. Now, basalt is also, wait for it, another rock that's really, really good at insulating radiation. So again, when they get the basalt from 500 miles away, 500 miles, that's like from England, London to Scotland. That's a hell of a journey for someone to carry all the rock to build, a building. It's a hell of a lot. So yeah, obviously it's Anunnaki, but yes, so they clearly knew what they were doing because there was limestone there, and obviously limestone does a half decent job of protecting, but not as good as granite. And I did all my research for that. So yes, you sport it, but well done, Alfredo. Obviously, clearly top of the class for you today. Alim has wrote, you better do a video on what the containers are before someone else beats you to it. I've done the videos, but yes, you've just hopefully now heard me give my explanation. There's still more to it on my videos, which I'll hopefully leave for you guys to watch. And see, that's all to do with research. It's you don't have granite. You don't take it from miles away if it's not doing a particular job. Otherwise, you could have used any stone. So clearly, and of course, again, watch my videos. There's more to it about the ones in the Serapeum. Do you know what the Serapeum is? Anyone know what the Serapeum is? Watch my videos if you don't know what Serapeum is. If you do, you'll then go, freaking hell, yes, perfect. That makes so much sense because it's buried 60 foot underground and some 50 foot along. So yeah, yeah. Scrolling down, sir, thank you. Sorry, I think of you as Daniel Jackson from Stargate. Huh, thank you. I always thought of myself as Colonel O'Neill, but hey, there's a little joke there because I used to deal with Stargate, the TV series. But yeah, no, thank you very much. I'll take Daniel Jackson. Now, which version, the movie or the TV? No, I'm joking. But no, that's great. Thank you very much. He was a bit geeky though, wasn't he? The movie version anyway. Just going down, people chatting to each other. Scrolling down. Jun has wrote, I've heard 3 of your radio interviews. Yeah, I think I've got more, but I've not uploaded them. But well done. So that's on my Patreon page. So if people are interested, also on my Patreon, I've got 3 of the chats that I've done. The reason, yeah, there's a couple of reasons why I've held back on some of the others, but mainly because if I remember correctly, I haven't listened to them, but I think there's things that I've learned since then, and I don't want to make myself look stupid. So, but thank you very much for listening to them. Hopefully you gained something out of it. Grimey's wrote CIA, my friend. I'm not sure what that was referring to. Steffi's wrote, I've had an idea that you go on the Friends radio show called Here to Chew Bubblegum in the US for thinkers. They'd love to have you on it. Ah, I've never heard of it, but that's nice. Yeah, I mean, because I don't even, so a radio show, I've never heard of it. And obviously, I probably would have to get it on some sort of digital radio format here if I could, such as TuneIn Radio. But no, yeah, I mean, you clearly see I like thinking, so yeah, that would be nice. Feel free to drop them a message, or I'll try and remember. Here to chew bubblegum. You know that phrase was used in They Live when he says, I think it was like They Live, the film, where Rowdy Roddy Piper says, I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, but I'm all out of bubblegum. So I'm guessing that's what they're saying that's from. And I'm waffling on again. That's probably why you said they'd want me on there. Flat Prover has wrote, of course they knew it was coming. The close approach of their planet caused the flood. Spot on. Yep, they did. Yeah, and if you go by Sitchin and his research, not only does their planet speeded up in the process of over thousands and thousands of years, getting faster round, but also the perigee of it depends on where other planets are as it comes round. So on this particular occasion, it was going to be the closest it had ever been out of 450,000 years, which really works out to be I don't know, 30 times I'm probably wrong. I'm not great at math. Maybe anyone good at math? So 3,600 divided by... Hey, Google, 450,000 divided by 3,600.
The answer is 125.
So then we've got to take away some of these because we're here now, so we haven't actually had that one yet. So we're counting from when they was here. So it's 125. So let's just give a conservative effort of about 110. So for them, it was 110 years. So out of 110 years, the one 10,000 years ago would have been the closest. So clearly 110 times, that's quite a lot. So as you can probably guess, the next one, if it continues on its trajectory, now obviously there was a couple more since 10,000 years ago, but we're still going to have an effect as it comes round. So yeah, but we won't be here, so we don't have to worry about that. Flat Provers wrote to 666. According to the Anunnaki and the Sumerians, yes, NASA even knows their large planet is out there. Oh, Flat Prover is sounds like he's done some homework, which is fantastic. Well done. Alfredo's wrote, our DNA holds 1.5 billion years of knowledge. That's exactly what I was. Thank you. Yes, that's my take on it. And so the junk DNA isn't just random crap that was cut off by the Anunnaki, as Billy Carson says, and we're left with 2%. Doesn't work for me. That doesn't. So yes, I agree with you, Alfredo, that the logic is obviously as we progress, if you believe in evolution, what happened to the amphibious side of us, billions of years ago? Does that DNA just drop off and die and slip out of our orifices? No, it doesn't. It's obviously going to stay there, but it's going to be superseded by the next incarnation of whatever it is that we're slowly turning into. And eventually, we're humans now. We will, another billions of years, we'll probably end up being light beings or whatever. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. Flat Provers wrote, they meaning NASA, have admitted that there's most likely a large planet in our solar system, Planet 9. They did a while back. They did back in the 80s, but now if you ask them, they'll probably say no. 666 wrote, there was a child that were a unavowed victim and pointed out his Unilever and where the body was. So I'm guessing what you're saying is there was a child victim and he pointed out where his body was in reincarnation. Yeah, there's a few of those as well. A few of those cases, yeah. Which is, I don't know what people want from proof, but that has to be proof, doesn't it? A little child explaining all that kind of stuff. 666 just wrote, carried on then, which forced the Unaliver to confess. I'm guessing that's right, okay, so I'm guessing that's the bad person that killed, because maybe your spell check or TikTok gets rid of the word MURDER. ERE, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I forgot the extra ER. But yeah, you get the point. 666 wrote to Flat Proved, but did the Anunnaki cause it or were just aware of it? So my research before I get to Flat Provers is that they were aware of it. They didn't intentionally cause it. Scrolling down, Alfredo's wrote, so I must have been a horse in my past life. Technically not you. Again, it's because the way it works, as I've said before, is if we all had our own spirits and yet reincarnation's real, that means our spirit would have went round into someone else that's already got a spirit. And then when that person dies, then those two spirits will go around and join another person with a spirit. And before you know it, over 400,000 years, we've got people with, you know, a million spirits in them. It just doesn't, technically not a million, but you get what I'm saying. Spirits in them. So yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's just a one spirit. And of course, when you talk to mediums, spiritualists, etc., when someone dies, they don't talk to 400 spirits from that one person. They talk to one spirit. So, yeah. Scrolling down, 666 wrote that the birthmark thing is often there on the body too. Yeah. I was just using that one as an example, but yeah. So many deformities from the trauma previously that the kid inherits. You know, like certain ears, if they had a problem with their ear, like, you know, cut off or whatever, the child ends up having a deformed ear. There's so many cases. If you're interested in the cases, you can go and look at the Virginia website or watch my video on Patreon about everything you need to know about spirits. And then Fake has just wrote Patreon, Our True History. Thank you. That was perfect timing for the advert there. Thank you, Fake. Reed Petit has wrote to Fake, is it an app? No, it's a website. You can get it on your phone, so just type in patreon.com and then search Our True History, and there's some videos and stuff on there that you can watch without having to pay anything that I've done. And then unfortunately there is a paywall, which is because it takes me some time to do some of those videos, especially the everything you need to know about spirits, because I have to double check everything and triple check it, because I don't want anyone to debunk me or say I'm stupid because I got something wrong. So they do take time, and they're properly edited and everything else, with voiceover, as opposed to me pointing the camera at the screen when I do my normal TikTok videos. So yeah, you can still go there and watch some videos, various different things that I've spoken about. 666 wrote, smart daughter for telling you to do that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she's, you know, when I said I'm, you know, too kind, literally I'll do things for people for absolutely nothing, to my detriment even. And that's just the way I am. And so when we was doing these TikToks, and I was saying, I want to do longer videos and I want to do this and do that, she says, put it on Patreon. And she literally kept bugging me to do it. And so I was like, but I don't want to charge people. I don't want to charge people. She's going, but you sit there. How long do you sit there editing those things? I say, half a day. And how many are you going to do of those particular ones? Well, you know, probably 2 weeks worth of my time. Well, as well as all the other videos you're going to be putting on Patreon. Yeah, do it, Dad. And I was waiting at that point for her to say, can I borrow some money? But no, she didn't know. So yeah, thank you though for saying she's a smart daughter to do that. Oh, Tiz is right. I bought all the books you recommended on your page, but I don't know which one to read. What do you suggest? Depends on what you're interested in, really. You know, I think Timothy Good's book, Need to Know, is absolutely, so that's to do with the military side of things. So if you're into the military hiding stuff, his book's great. If you're into wanting to go through everything and then go into the other ones, then obviously the book that's got the loads of names, Black Ops, Aliens, Spirits, Bigfoot, and Our Untrue History, that one obviously goes through various things in chronological order, which is great. But I don't know what tickles your fancy first. So yeah, that's what I would say. Whatever you feel like you want to read first would be the one probably to read. Steffi, sorry, just met you on. Oh, Steffi's right. I thought exactly that too, with a little X. I'm not sure what I said, but I'll take that. I like people agreeing with me. Deanna's wrote, they knew the flood was coming, and Enki warned that guy they call Noah in the Bible. Yeah, his real name was Zazudra in the tablets. Literally, I read the tablets today and did a video on Patreon about the flood. When I say about the flood, I was reading the tablets translation by the Oxford University. I read that all out and pointed out various different bits as well from my knowledge. But yes, his name is Zazudra, even though Ivan Finkel calls him Hartrahasis, Astrahasis. That was it. I think he got it wrong. I think Sitchin got it right, because obviously the Oxford University also translated it as Zazudra. So very interesting, very interesting. Scrolling down, people chatting to each other. Alfredo's wrote, "Sir, if we are light energy beings, how come we don't blind each other?" We're not the light energy beings. The light energy beings join with us. We're just, chemicals and flesh and blood and stuff. So the light energy beings, and plus we also can't see them with our visual range, so we're not going to get blind by them. Waterworld wrote, "Hi there." Hi, Waterworld. Alfredo's wrote, "They want us to eat anything with legs except the table, and anything with wings except a plane." Very good. I like that one. Octiz has wrote, "When will this live go on Spotify?" Because it's quite an interesting one, I will put this on. I've got two to put on. I want to put last night's one on because I thought it was a good one. Although I do bash Billy Carson a lot on these two lives. So if you're listening, Billy, I'm sorry. Just think before you post your videos up, because people like me will pick holes in them. Going back to, so hopefully, if not the weekend, certainly the weekend. It just depends on how busy I am tomorrow. Technically, I could have put the one up from last night now because I'm sitting here chatting to you guys, but I do thoroughly enjoy doing these. Tears just wrote, "Can't wait till Monday so I can start signing up to your Patreon." Thank you very much. Hopefully you've watched the one that's there now, that you don't have to pay for. But yeah, there's 50, 60 videos or something on the Patreon, and there's live chats that where I do these live chats. Sometimes they go on Spotify, YouTube and my website. Other times I save them and I put them on the Patreon one. So the ones on the Patreon are not, even though anyone listening to me heard me, but anyone that didn't listen at that point, they can find those ones separately. So there's extra live chats on Patreon that's not on any other of the normal sites. But thank you, that's lovely to say that. Alfredo's wrote, "Do you think it's because kids under 7 operate theta brainwave?" I hadn't thought that, but yes, it would make sense to a point. Obviously, there might be other contributing factors, but yeah, it's a very logical conclusion there. So I would stick Alfredo now, who's number 1 and number 3. So well done, Alfredo. You're going to get all 3 at this rate. Emma has wrote, "The next rest." The next rest. I don't know what the next rest is, unless you're referring to Enki when he turns around and says 7th day of rest, which kind of makes sense if you think that they sleep for 7 days and 7 nights. They might not actually sleep for the whole 7 days. They may sleep for 7 nights and 6 days, which is 1 day of their time, plus one more. Maybe that's why they needed the rest. But sorry, I don't know what the next rest is. 666 wrote 8:49, which is now, I'm behind again, so it's now 9:24, so 25 minutes or so behind, forgive me. Emma's wrote, "Is there an urgency to get to Mars because the sun is getting ready for another reset?" Okay, so I have to break that down. First of all, I've never heard of the sun having a first reset. So to have another reset, and obviously the only, humans are the only ones that could write things down and verbally pass information down. I've never come across anything where the sun reset itself in texts, ancient texts or anything like that. So wherever you've got it from, I would say would probably be a more modern, someone making it up, really. And as for the urgency to Mars, no, we're already on, military is already on Mars. They've been there for a long time. They use the TR-3B to get there, and probably other craft as well now. So technically, there's no rush. Now, Elon Musk might want to get there, but I have a feeling they've already told him not to say anything about aliens, because obviously he's got craft going up into space. Last thing they want him to do was film UFOs flying around and whatever else and tell the public. So I think he's already been warned. And sometimes when people like Joe Rogan ask him questions, you can see how he has to stop and he changes. You can just tell that he's changing what he would have probably said into something different and very cryptic. So for him, getting to Mars will probably be just because he wants to. But technically on Mars there's already species. And I don't know if you know about the probe that went to Mars by Russia. So going back in, I think, the early 80s, Russia sent a probe to Mars, and it was sending back pictures as it got closer and closer to Mars, and there was this object in the distance, and each picture, I think there was 3 pictures, each picture this object got closer and closer until the fourth picture basically cut, fourth or third picture cut off. In other words, it was sending it, and whatever this object was smashed into it, or laser beamed it, or destroyed it in some way or another. So the pictures are still out there, from what I understand. They might still be out there. Don't quote me, but they were on the internet probably 15 years ago when I last looked. So there's people and aliens already on Mars, which is why the Beagle 2 died. 666 wrote, sedative, do you mean anesthesia? So yes, that was it. I was trying to think of the name of it. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. See, I'm not perfect. 666, maybe I'm the one who got it wrong. I do often laugh out loud. No, you've spot on. I was trying to think of anesthesia. What Wells wrote, hi there, request to come on. I was mainly trying to pump my thing tonight. I still didn't print out the thing, so I will have a chat with you soon. Hopefully you're listening. Let me throw out something, because obviously I think you believe there's a firmament, e.g. a dome, when really it means atmosphere. But can I just throw out one thing to you? British people built Beagle 2, had nothing to do with NASA, didn't want to deal with NASA, and it got all the way to Mars. Genuinely did. So how did it escape this impenetrable dome? It would be my question. So hopefully you have the answer to that when we chat next. Emma's wrote, so many people are getting vertigo lately. Is this because of the magnetic field change? I've not heard loads of people getting vertigo. So I can't answer that. I mean, I would guess it's probably to do with, chemtrails. It's probably to do with the food we eat, the water we drink, and various other things affecting our brain. And even I mean, you could go down the line of those people that are having vertigo. Did they have any operations in the arm in the last 2 years, if you get what I'm saying? So, I would look for a correlation between the people, if at all possible. Steffi's wrote to Our True History, they remember the live where you misspelt stuff deliberately and everyone kept pointing it out. I know. I was getting crucified then, wasn't I? Wow, yeah. So I feel sorry for, people that have issues spelling, because if that's what they do to people, then yeah, they were saying things like, I'm never going to trust you because you can't spell. So everything you're saying, they don't trust because I didn't spell the background writing correctly, even though I deliberately did it. Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? Thank you, Steffi, for remembering that. Scrolling down. Water Wells wrote, I waited 41 minutes to talk with you. You knew I was planning to come on today or Friday. Technically, Friday's not here yet. So when you wrote that in capitals, it sounds like you're upset with me when you've literally just admitted that it could be today or tomorrow. And do you see what I'm saying? So you shouldn't really be upset with me if you've given me 2 dates to chat with you, and you was the one that gave me those dates. I didn't actually write back and say, yes, okay. You just said, I'll chat with, if I'm paraphrasing, but very similar, I'll chat with you about Flat Earth Thursday or Friday. And I didn't reply because I didn't know whether sometimes I don't know what I'm doing in the evenings. But because I've done a video today on the Patreon page, which is, I think people have to, I know it sounds like I'm pushing them to go back, but I would love to not put it on the Patreon page because it nails the flood. It really does. So that's why I've done that. I wasn't technically going to do a live tonight, but because I did that video and I thought, wow, and it was still fresh in my head. I thought if anyone wants to ask me about the flood, I can go through the whole of that. And so sorry that you're upset, but it's I did. Hopefully you heard me earlier when I actually said when you first come on, oh sorry, we'll have to chat later another time because I didn't print out the thing that I needed your help with. Just scrolling down.
Email message. There is an email message.
Steffi's wrote to Waterworld, chill buddy, I'm sure it's not deliberate. It wasn't deliberate, but yeah, I do want to chat to him because I've got I need to so basically I've wrote a book and I need to print out the pages to actually, and they're at work, which is why I can't just go and sit by my computer here. So I just need to print them out, but today I left half day, so I was planning to print them out, but because I left half day, I had time to make that new video which I put on the Patreon page, which I was excited about. So it's not intentional, Waterworld. Octiz has wrote, if you know me by now, Waterworld, you know that I'm not that type of person to deliberately annoy someone. I'm just not that person. However, I know a song that will get on your nerves, get on your nerves, get on your nerves. Octiz has wrote, I need to know the UFO, the Lost Book of Enki, Chariots of the Gods, Black Ops aliens, etc. I would start with the Lost Book of Enki if you have to choose one of those, Lost Book of Enki. Then I would probably go to Eric von Doniken's book, Chariots of the Gods. Now I listen to him and I read his books and stuff because he's obviously one of the top researchers, but even still he gets a few things, he doesn't seem to 100% subscribe to Zachariah Sitchin's version, and I do because literally I read out the stone tablets. So I don't think Eric's probably read those tablets. So where it comes to the Anunnaki, I think Eric's more on the side of aliens, different races coming here back then, when really it was only one race, because he's got no evidence of different races here, but we have got evidence of the Anunnaki. So somehow I think he got into the mindset that there was many different alien races back so far, when there's no evidence of that. So although if you read Chariots of the Gods, fantastic book, but just bear in mind that he's not 100% behind Sitchin on that when you read it, and I think Sitchin was right. So there's some things wrong. His interpretations of the aliens, I think, is wrong. Obviously, the structures and everything else, yes, he's done some fantastic research on. So Octis wrote, which one to read first? So Lost Book of Enki, hands down, if you're going to go start from the beginning, and then Chariots of the Gods, and then the other one with the long title. Waterworld wrote to Steffi, he and I have chatted about me coming on today or tomorrow. Very disappointing. I don't know. Is it me? Am I? Literally, he's just admitted that it could also be tomorrow. So he's upset that I'm not doing it today, even though he's admitted that it could be tomorrow. That's probably why your mindset believes the world's flat. I don't mean to knock you down. I'm just saying you seem to have this passive aggressive nature, and you did before when we first when you first came on my one of my posts, and you posted something, and it was I challenge you to debate. I challenge you to debate. I've actually seen you on other people's messages on other people's videos about globes, and I've seen you saying, "Put me on a live with you. Put me on a live with you. Put me on a live with you." So you do seem to have, and I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying this seems to be your personality that you, if you don't get what you want, because you ended up calling me liar and everything. In fact, even after we did the live last time, I went and read messages, and because I didn't see you requesting a live until a bit later, sometimes I don't look at the screen all the time. I close my eyes when I'm talking. Because I didn't see your request, even though I did later on, you had gone away and wrote on some of my posts, I'm a clown, I'm nasty, and it was some horrible things, to be fair with you, which I thought was a bit nasty, considering, you know, yeah, so you get the point. So so Waterworld, if you could just back off for a little bit without sounding rude, and please don't go away and now post on my post saying I'm nasty again. So yes, that's all I'm saying. Obviously, if I said 100% I'm doing a live with you on Thursday, then you could be upset. I would totally agree with that. But you gave me the dates, and I never actually wrote back saying yes, I could do those dates today or tomorrow. But you've assumed that I have accepted it and still got upset because it was only one of those dates that we're still on, and even though there's a second date that you gave me. So hopefully you understand what I'm saying. So maybe just chill a little bit if you wouldn't mind. Diggory has wrote, I read Sitchin's back in '96 and it was fascinated. Yes, I didn't read it that far back actually. I read it more 2000, so you must have had an epiphany reading that. I would have back in '96. Fakers wrote, today or tomorrow, you do realise he does more than just TikTok, right? He's a busy man. Thank you, Fake. And then Fake wrote to Waterworld, things don't always work out the way that you may seem. Sorry, I was just excited about that Patreon video. I wasn't going to do a live tonight because I did one last night, and I think I did the one the night before and so on. So, but I did that video, and when the Anunnaki are talking about the flood and how they're up in the sky, up in heaven, which is space, looking back down as the flood's happening. I mean, it's just phenomenal to have that kind of text from them. Amazing. Steffi's wrote to Waterworld, bear with him. I'm interested in what you have to say. Waters wrote to Fake. We've texted online. He knew I was coming by. I wasted 47 minutes of my life. Now, I did say the first second I saw your first message, I did say, I'm so sorry I didn't print out the thing, so we'll have to chat on another day. So I'm kind of leaning now towards, why should I bother? Because, you have been nasty to me on posts. You have kind of been slightly nasty to me here. I'm not that type of person. I don't try and, do you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm too nice. 666 wrote, thank you for answering my question. That's what I'm here to do. Fakers wrote to Water, wow, 47 minutes, shame you will never get them back. I mean, you could argue, Fake. You could have said 47 minutes of learning some fantastic information that you probably didn't already know. So in which case 47 minutes, if I was listening to someone that had information, I would never say it's a waste of 47 minutes. But maybe that's just me. Maybe there's a confirmation bias with Waterworld. In other words, listening to me talking about things, including the Anunnaki, which would have come here through the firmament, e.g., the impenetrable dome, maybe confirmation bias doesn't let that type of person listen to me, because obviously I'm saying things that go against their narrative, so then they blank me out, and I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. What Wells wrote to Steffi, he said he can't chat with me today, very disappointing. Again, didn't exactly nail it down with you. You just gave me dates that you would want to chat with me. I know I did say to you before I'd chat, really regularly online. So you've given me 2 dates, but I don't know how you can be disappointed when you gave me 2 dates and this is still the first date. I'm really leaning towards not doing it now, Waterworld. It's just, if I see another comment that's negative, I probably will say, forget it, move on to someone else. I've tried to be nice. Steffi's wrote to Waterworld, you're kind of dampening the mood. Oh, sorry, Steffi. Fakers wrote, Waterworld, is today tomorrow or question mark? Martin's wrote, sorry, chatting to Alfredo. Steffi's wrote to Waterworld, you must know stuff is fluid, buddy. Fakers wrote to Steffi, don't worry about me. Waterworld's wrote to Fake, he knew I was coming by to chat. I requested multiple times to join the live. But as I say, the first time I saw your message, because I am behind, I did say it can't be today, because I did this video and it was only supposed to be a short one, and now it's 10 o'clock, and half of that spent going through trying to explain to you that. Anyway. Martin's wrote, they can steal my ex, nobody wants her. I'm guessing that's still. Nobody wants her. Waterworld, this is all so very disappointing. I tell you what, Waterworld, call it a day. I'm sorry. Just feel free to move on. Chat with someone else. It's a shame, but I can't be dealing with this. I can't have the thought that you've bullied me into, which is what it is, even on the posts, the way you was the very first time, it's, you won't debate with me, you're a chicken and this kind of stuff. That's what I had before we even did the very first live chat. So I think we'll call it a day, because I don't want this. I don't need that. Sorry. Martin's wrote, she is a Trojan horse. Big mistake going with her. Oh, sorry to hear that, Martin. I'm sure there's someone else out there that's not a Trojan horse. Emma's wrote, the Bible says Elohim is Yahweh. Yeah, again, if you go by the Bible, it says a lot of things that contradict a lot of things, and there's a lot of things that it says that really don't make sense. However, the stone tablets do make sense, and they obviously predate the Bible, and they talk about things that the Bible talks about. So one of them's right. It's either the older one or the newer one, and I would go with the older one that the newer one copied from. But Elohim is the race name of the Anunnaki. So Sitchin believes that Yahweh is the creator of everything. So technically, the creator of everything is, if you want to call it a capital G God, you can. Sitchin calls the Anunnaki gods with a small g, so when he talks about Yahweh or the creator of everything, he says it with a capital G. So technically, part right, if you get what I'm sort of saying. Digori's wrote thoughts on the moon. I'd be in. Do you know what? It's a good question, because I know I've answered this before, but I'm just thinking out, trying to think different answers. Really, I would be very interested in looking at these moon rocks that they supposedly gave institutions that they collected from the moon, because obviously if they didn't land on the moon. Now I believe the moon's a proper body, not an image or a photocopy or anything else that people seem to talk about. The moon is a solid structure that's been mined from the inside by aliens and us. But going to the point of the moon rocks, now they gave them to institutions. What I should really do, so this is the way I work, I would like to look up the institutions to find out which institutions they gave them to. And then I would like to see who funds those institutions. You get where I'm going, don't you? Because if it's the Rockefellers, then really what they've done is a scam. Because there's no way the Rockefellers are going to say, hey, this is not moon rock, this is just rock from, Sahara Desert or somewhere else. So yeah, that's an interesting take. I could probably, use that as a debunking tool by showing that if the 5 or 6 or however many institutions are all funded by the Rockefellers, then that's that's an interesting thought. I will try and bear that in mind. But yeah, it's definitely a solid object that was broken off, in my opinion, based on the Umralish, broken off from a bigger planet. We was formed from the bigger planet asteroid belt, and so was the moon, according to the tablets in the British Museum. Alfredo's wrote, so the Anunnaki also get married. Do they get divorced? That's got to be a number 2 question, isn't it? You have now hit the jackpot. You've got all 3 tonight. Well done, Alfredo. That's a cup of tea for you, deservedly tonight. So that's a really good question. Give me 2 seconds to try and rattle my brain to think if I've ever heard of that. It's a really good question. Wow. I'm just thinking. I'm trying to go through all the people that would have split up with other people. Did they have a divorce? Did it ever say a divorce? Did it ever say split up? That's a good question. So the only things I can recall is they get married and they have concubines. So basically they can have as many women as they want. So they're still stuck with the same one. So such as Sud being Hera in Greece. Hera was causing a hell of a lot of problems for Zeus, which would have been Enlil. She was a right pain, but obviously he abused her when she was young, got her pregnant, and had to marry her. So they weren't a loving couple. So they stayed together. They had to stay together. So I would argue that there is divorce, but for some reason or other, maybe in the royalty side of it. In other words, the Anunnaki, the King Anu, Enki, Enlil, Ninhursag, the royalty side, maybe they're not allowed to, or I don't know. But yeah, it's a good point. So yeah, no, thank you for asking that. So I don't really know 100%, but I've never heard anyone divorcing, and if anyone would have split with anyone, it would have been Hera and Zeus, which would have been Enlil and Sud. Martins wrote, for a woman, 12-foot man, ouch. Yeah, well, Gilgamesh's was 3/4 Anunnaki. 3/4 Anunnaki and 1/4 human. So his mum was the Anunnaki, which means 8 to 12 foot went with a guy, a human, who, let's be honest, probably isn't 6'3" back in those days. So yeah, they managed to get it on, and she had a child, and his name was Gilgamesh. So there's probably other Anunnaki women, because there were Anunnaki women, obviously, and not just that, but then you end up with demigods as well, which were women, such as Athena and so on. So yeah, interesting. Scrolling down. Christina has wrote, can you please look into the history of the Giant's Ring in Northern Ireland? I grew up around there. The Giant's Ring. That's an interesting one. I've not heard of the Giant's Ring. I've heard of the Giant's Causeway. Is that what you mean? I don't know if that's what you mean. So the story of the Giant's Causeway, if that's what you mean, is where these blocks are almost hectagonal and they're all sort of slotted into each other. Obviously, it's a natural formation because there's other similarities around the world where they have this rock formation that seems to break in that kind of pattern. But the stories go that that was the crossing place for the giant to go and see his girlfriend across in Scotland. But I don't know if that's what you mean. I've not heard of the Giant's Ring, so I'll be interested to look into that. Thank you. Alfredo's wrote, always try to be gentle. I always try and be gentle. Thank you, Alfredo. Martin's wrote, granite is radioactive. Yes, I did mention that earlier. The
Email
countertops.
message. There is an email message.
The countertops that you have in your kitchen are actually radioactive. Yeah, only small amount, nothing that's going to kill you, but they are indeed. Well done, Martin. You're obviously clued up on that. Martin's wrote, granite contains radioactive isotopes. They do indeed. Well done. You obviously have done your research. Alfreda's wrote, how is it possible I can get the answer right and still not go top of the class? You did. So you were 1, 2, and 3 tonight. I think there was only one other person that ever did that, and that was Salvatore. So, from memory. And so, yeah, well done. Second person to ever do that. So I have this little class thing that, as you probably heard, somehow I started doing that. No, I'm not a teacher or a professor or anything like that. But yeah, I just ended up started doing that, and people seem to enjoy it. And obviously, when I get a really good question, I want to praise the person. So well done, Alfredo. Scrolling down, Christina's wrote, can you please look into the Giant's Ring? Sorry, yeah, I am behind on the messages, so it's not intentional. It is live, if anyone's joined that don't know me. Scrolling down, Alfreda's wrote, look at me go, I'm semi-bloody illiterate. I'm fully illiterate. Emma's wrote, why is the Vatican telescope Lucifer? They've got 2 actually as well. One's called Lucifer, and people worshipping the wrong god. I think it's to deliberately throw us off personally. So I believe, because the last place the Anunnaki demigods were in Rome, and then suddenly springs up a building that was back then a central hub, and a builder once found an elongated skull underneath the Vatican when he was underneath there fixing pipes and whatever else. So my conclusion, I may be wrong, but my conclusion is the Anunnaki set up that, or the demigods, in other words, the offspring of the Anunnaki and humans, set that up as a control method. And as time went on, obviously other religions were out there at this point. So although the Anunnaki don't have a religion, but by that point there was Christianity and stuff. So I think they probably, because you can't just turn around and say worship us because we're taller than you and we created you at that point, because we was all talking and people were learning things at schools and stuff like that around the world. So I don't think they would have had the impact to say, hey, I'm a god, just like the Christians. They wouldn't, or the Catholics, they wouldn't be able to turn around and say that because they're standing there 8 to 12 foot tall, or however tall the demigods were. So my take on it is that they thought, well, hang on a minute, let's join in this religion stuff and try and control people that way. And obviously they want to throw off the scent that they have, because the Vatican also, there's whistleblowers that have said that they've been in the Vatican vault underground and have seen giant skeletons, etc., which means the Vatican are hiding things such as the Anunnaki skeletons, 8 to 12 foot tall, or even the giant skeletons, which 36 foot or however high. So yeah, I think the Vatican was built primarily for the the offspring of the Anunnaki. I really do. To have that sort of building, bearing in mind that you look at all the other buildings around the world, India, etc., etc., they've all got these massive temples to the gods, or not gods, but not in religious terms, but to the Anunnaki. It only makes sense to me that the demigods, after all the other ones have left or died, would have wanted some power, and so that's where they were last. So that's why I think, and obviously the Lucifer telescope, or both of the telescopes that the Vatican has, are not looking up for Father Christmas, and they're not looking up for God. They're looking up for aliens and when Nibiru's coming around, all that kind of stuff. I'm guessing, obviously they then rent the telescope out to people, but as a general thing, themselves, they're not looking for an almighty being up there. And they're not astronomers, so really there's only one reason why they're looking up the aliens. Alfredo's right, oh my god, I made top of the class, so well done. Martin's right, can I get a gold star for saying granite? You can indeed. Because obviously all 3 spots are taken now by Alfredo. For your knowledge, you can get a gold star, absolutely. So you're now the first person ever to get a gold star from me as well. So what a night. So this is definitely going to go on Spotify. I might have to edit out a particular bit where I was talking about someone or to someone. You know the bit I'm talking about, everybody. Scrolling down. 666 has wrote nerds rule, fools drool. Martin's wrote reset, question mark. I don't know which reset you're referring to, because someone mentioned the sun reset, or are you talking about the great reset? I don't know which reset you're referring to, or if there's another reset that I'm not aware of. Alfredo's wrote basalt and granite is the reason there is 100-meter glass-walled hole in the old Twin Towers. I didn't know that. It's interesting. Alfredo's right. Hey, Daniel Jackson. Got all the women. I think of myself as Tilk. Yeah, I love that program. I didn't like the boring ones, the episodes, but I did love Stargate. Yeah, I have a connection with Stargate, as I've probably said many a times. So, yeah, I did like that program. Steffi's right. I'll hook you up with Here to Chew Bubblegum. Exciting. Thank you very much. Their title doesn't actually give them a description of what they talk about, so I'm guessing it's a general discussion each time with someone different, maybe. But yeah, you know me, I'm happy to waffle on if people want to listen. Martin wrote they lived. Yes, that was the Chew Bubblegum. Well done, Martin. So Martin's obviously on form tonight as well. Christina's wrote, I felt the Anunnaki in the Giant's Ring in Northern Ireland. Can you please look into the... Yeah, I've never heard of the Giant's Ring. I will look into it. Never heard of that, though, the Giant's Ring. Alfredo's wrote, God didn't make me good at maths, otherwise I'd be too powerful. Steffi's wrote, did you hear about the impenetrable lake thousands of feet under the sea? The person who found it... I'm waiting for the next bit. was blown up in a helicopter after reporting it. He worked for the Blue Planet filming. So let me just read that again now. Did you hear about the impenetrable lake? Impenetrable lake of thousands of feet under the sea. So there's, because of salt content, there is what looks like absolutely crystal clear lakes actually underneath on the floor bed of the ocean in some places. And I know the Blue Planet has filmed that. Now, the impenetrable part of that type of thing, I've not heard of some. Yeah, I've not heard of that, so I don't know, but it's interesting. Emma's wrote, some have DNA memory. I'm guessing that's to do with the junk DNA. Yeah, that's why they could switch on the chicken DNA to turn it from feathers into scales. Martin's wrote 1.5 billion years of knowledge. I'm guessing that's in the DNA you're referring to. If only DNA could talk, eh? Steffi's wrote, I read that bit. Sorry, someone's talking to someone. Steffi then, carried on. Sorry, there's a few more down. He could see shit swimming under the surface, but it was dense and impenetrable. Interesting. I know that there is generally what people call lakes because of the salt content separating the water above and the water below, so it just looks like a crystal clear lake in the middle of an ocean, which is really weird. Now, if you think logically, the Dead Sea has got a very high salt content, otherwise you wouldn't be able to float like you do. So using logic, I would then say, because of the same sort of salt content, the diver may have had trouble trying to get down lower because the salt may have been too high, too rich, just like the Dead Sea. So have I solved the problem? Maybe, I don't know. Throwing it out there. Scrolling down. 666 has wrote, we can't use the M word anymore. Oh, I'm guessing that was the MUDER word. Right, Alfredo's wrote unaliver. Right, okay, sorry, yeah, I didn't get that earlier. You've put a gap between it now. I was thinking of Unilever, which was the company that makes many products. JM has wrote, is the Earth flat? No. As much as everyone will try and tell you it's flat, it's not. And I know I've said this 1,000 times, but the simplest way to look at it is when you look at any flat earthers video of a rocket up in space or sky or as high as it can go, and the camera pans round and you see equal distance, even on the same own flat earthers videos. I've actually couldn't help myself sometimes. I've posted, oh, you've just proved it's round. But yeah, you can't be in the middle when you're only 4,000 miles from the edge in Australia with a rocket, and 20-odd thousand miles the opposite way. You can't be in the middle. You can only be in the middle on a ball, and that ends it for me. Martin's right. I think I was a dog in my last life. They all love me. Ah, that's nice. I'd love to have said I was. I was trying to. I was trying to think of a bad joke. I was trying to think of someone. What was his name? That everyone loved back in the day. I can't remember his name. What's the guy's name? He was in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I'm just thinking of that. There was a name for a person that everyone, or I can't remember. Anyway, so I was going to say I wasn't him in the previous life because girls don't love me. But it was a really bad joke and I ruined it. Someone will probably tell me his name. I can't remember. Emma's wrote, Hill is one of those don't make it to the next level. Incarnate, not reincarnate. I'm guessing, is that hell is the ones that don't make it to the next level, incarnate or reincarnate? Hell. Well, every clairvoyant, medium, and spiritualist that I've spoke to that are, spot on, they say there's no such thing as hell. Even certain Christian priests, etc., say that hell was made up as a control method. But what spiritualists do say is that there's a higher and lower frequency. So they're here, they're just, obviously, A, we can't see them, but B, the higher frequencies stick together and the lower frequencies stick together. Steffi's wrote, do you think then that the persons with multiple personalities with different physical illnesses have multiple spirits? No, and that's because they're certain people. Now, there was a TV program called LOLO, and he had a car accident where a metal rod went through his skull and separated both parts of his brain. And as time went on, he ended up realizing that he had two personalities. So it's not inconceivable. That's just one example. It's not inconceivable that people actually can have their own thoughts if their brain is not wired correctly. So there's other cases out there of people where they literally have genuinely split personalities. So I don't think it's to do with spirits. I think it's just to do with their own way their brain's made up. That one half doesn't connect properly to the second half, and it creates its own brain, basically, or personality, should I say? Fakers wrote Patreon has an app as well. Oh, right, okay, I didn't know that. Thank you, Fake. 666 has wrote to Steffi, I'm glad I were brought here by becoming friends with you. Oh, there's a little, I don't know what the word is, but a friendship, shall we say, going on there. Scron Jan Jun has wrote, does your daughter teach you about witchcraft? Will you be making a video? I desperately want her to. I do keep asking her, even if it's just one that I do and put it up on YouTube. Even if it's not showing her face. And I said to her, we can do this, and if you don't like it, I'll just delete it before even uploading it. And then she gets a bit upset and stresses, because she says, what if I don't know as much? What happens if I sound stupid? What happens if because she's still learning, she doesn't know everything. And then she puts a spell on me because she gets upset with me. I'm joking, she doesn't put a spell on me. No, yeah, I'd still want to. Trust me, I do. She's a very intelligent girl, very philosophical. And she can actually pronounce words better than I can. So, yeah, shut up. So yeah, I do definitely want to. Alfreda's wrote, Tim, I love Tim Good. That's Timothy Good. Alien liaison got me into aliens and getting abducted. Yeah, we don't see him much now, obviously on TV or anywhere. I don't know if he's still alive. I'm hoping he is. Emma's wrote well, technically Emerald Tablets of Thoth. I'm guessing you're asking, I do like proper questions, I'm guessing you're asking, what are they? So they're tablets written supposedly, because we don't actually have the originals, supposedly on this this unbreakable rock, shall we say. And there was, I think the 13. We've only got 12. Apparently they hid one. Someone hid one because it would change the way we think about things in life, and more than likely it would give. Anyway, so the Emerald Tablets of Thoth is basically Thoth managed to get to the underworld. I was trying to remember the name of the underworld the other day, wasn't I? Amenti, Halls of Amenti. There we go. Got it in the end. So Thoth manages to get to. I'm paraphrasing very briefly on what it's about, but Thoth, being Ning's leader, got interested in life after death and managed to speak to spirits, not just speak to spirits, but actually get taken to them, get shown around in the halls of Amente, and even gets shown the two main ones that are in charge of absolutely everything. So that's really what it is. But it's really difficult to read for people that's never don't understand any of it. So I've done a couple of videos on my Patreon page where I sort of help break down some of the passages that might be confusing to people. Steffi's right. I used to see many light beings at once every day as a child. Mum told my mum never saw them again. Ah, that's interesting. All goes back to the fact that also, as someone else pointed out earlier, children do seem to have the ability to see things that we don't see now. So wow. And you put plural there, light beings. Excuse me. Well, 10 o'clock. I was only supposed to do a short live. So if you've seen spirits, then chances are, if they're around, they're probably spirit guides, which is really nice to know that they're there for you. Amy has wrote, go meet squatch.net or squaw.net. I'm guessing that's to do with Bigfoot, squaw, as in abbreviation or short for Sasquatch. Okay. And then Liz has wrote, go meet squash.net. Wow. And then Sandy, hang on a minute, I think we have a Trojan, because now there's a third one, Denise and Ashley. And then Martin's wrote to them, go away. Emma's wrote Nova. Again, really do like full questions. Not quite sure what you're on about, such as supernova. I don't know what you're referring to. Alfredo's wrote, kids, this is what happens when you try. Now I'm going for numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's because Alfredo earlier said he's semi-illiterate. Let me know when you get to 6. Scrolling down. Alfredo's wrote, think Pegasus, think of something smart. Emma's wrote, reset as in Nova every 12,000 years. So, see, again, the problem we've got with that is, this is why I don't like the internet, because that assumes someone was around 12,000 years ago and wrote it down, that there was a reset in the first place, and Nova being supernova, in other words, sun going supernova, which, if the sun goes supernova, you end up with a dwarf star. And we wouldn't be here if the sun went supernova, because I don't know if you know this, but when a sun, I mean, I'm going by scientists, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm just telling you what they say, that when a sun goes supernova, or certainly our sun, it will expand and it will encompass us, it will encompass Venus, it will encompass Mars, and then it will pop and would be long gone before that all happens. So for the 12,000 years, that means, when you say every 12,000 years, that means 24,000 years ago, it happened previously with zero evidence of that. And I say zero evidence because I know you could turn around and say, well, in the soil there was something happened around the world at that point, and therefore it's the sun going nova, which doesn't really equate properly, because obviously we wouldn't be here if the sun died out, or even if it didn't die out and just, I don't know what you would expect it to do to change. But you have to look at it from a logical point of view. When someone says every 12,000 years, you have to have the evidence of something that happened. And obviously, 24,000 years ago, 24,000 years ago was a long time ago, and we don't even have written language at that point. Obviously, the Anunnaki had their own, but they only started teaching us about 9,000 years ago. So the Anunnaki didn't write about it 24,000 years ago, not that I'm aware of, unless you know different. So I would say when people start throwing things out and throwing history where it's every such and such, unless we've got it, absolutely nailed, proof beyond a shadow of a doubt, which obviously we don't have verbal, so it would only be something happening to the soil. So I would say no. I would say whoever thought that up needs a good wet slap. So that's just my take on it. Fakers blocked all those fake accounts. That's funny. I never thought I'd hear myself say that. Fakers block fake accounts. Emma's, thank you, Fake, for doing that. Emma's wrote, of course there is. We have never been told... we've never been alone in this universe. That's, I'm guessing, to do with aliens. Alfredo... so Steffi's wrote to Alfredo, you're that kid in the class throwing aeroplanes at us geeks. And then Steffi's wrote at Steffi, and making us laugh, meaning carrying on from the aeroplane joke, I guess. And then Alfredo's wrote to Steffi, I was only trying to keep up with the Salvatore, but he's not in today. He's really good. I don't know if you've listened to him, but he's like me, except he just doesn't seem to go off and do the research himself. He just asks me, but he's got that sort of, he wants, connects things and wants to know the answers. Emma's wrote, well, down here under, we are getting vertigo. Interesting. Yeah, I'd like to know if there's a connection just with the thing in the arm. I may be wrong, but if it's a fairly recent phenomenon, then I would try and look for something that's fairly recent that had happened to these people. Emma's wrote, no operations. I and many with no dietary change are getting vertigo. Okay, in that case, what I would probably do if it was me, I would probably look up what the brain does to cause vertigo. It's probably something to do with the inner ear. So I would probably look that up, and then from that, then look outwards and see, okay, well, if it's a chemical, or if it's an imbalance of something, I would look that up to try and find out, and then see if, especially if you get it, then you can answer your own questions as you look it up. But yeah, I've not heard of that before, but thank you for letting me know. I'll keep that in my head. Fake had asked Emma, when did you get it? And then Alfredo wrote, Steffi, no, I was the kid throwing an orange at the blackboard while the teacher was writing on it. Okay, and now I've given him head of the class. You've had a lucky day today, Alfredo. Scrolling down. Lotus was wrote, are you filming now? No, if it's to do with the movie, we've got to put a package together for the investors, and I've been slack sorting that out for the last couple of weeks because I've got other things that I do. But the investors are busy anyway and won't really deal with us until after Christmas. So yeah, so I've got to sort all that out. Scrolling down, people chatting to each other. I'm trying not to read the ones that talk to each other because of the time now. Jay has wrote, this is the song that doesn't end. That was I'm guessing that I've got a song that will get on your nerves. Reek Petite Strip, subscribe to your Patreon. Oh, bless you. That must have been the. I have an email that popped through earlier. Hopefully, you find something of interest. I continuously add to that, so I hopefully you'll enjoy the. If you're interested in the Anunnaki, hopefully you'll enjoy me reading those and giving you my thoughts as I read them, etc. Jay's wrote, wait, what evidence do we have of the Anunnaki? First ever language that suddenly appeared. No previous language, no previous half language, no scribbles, nothing. So someone, somewhere, created a language out of absolutely nothing. Or it was an alien race that already had that language. That's the first thing. Second is, in their tablets, the oldest known written language in the world, they actually talk about creating humans, etc. So if and there's hundreds of thousands of these tablets, so even if there was no Anunnaki and it was humans, to sit there and make up a story over probably 3,000 years, I mean probably more than that, but I'm talking about in terms of the Anunnaki. So 3,000 years and hundreds of thousands of tablets all have to match the same story that other people had carried on talking about up and down Mesopotamia. No, it wouldn't match unless there genuinely was Anunnaki. And of course, the main crux of the thing is they told us that they built buildings which are buried under the flood, and that there was. They told us where they built the buildings, and they even told us things that about the universe that we then found out later on about. So, yeah, they're definitely here. Sorry, I've got a dog trying to climb over me. All right, I'm going to probably shoot soon. I know there's still more messages, but I think this dog wants to go out. WD has wrote, he acts like a child. I'm not sure who that's referring to. I'm guessing Waterworld. Liam's wrote, you're a brilliant teacher. Oh, thank you very much. I without trying to make myself sound big-headed, but because I write scripts for movies, I have to think how other people would perceive it, and so in other words, when I talk, I try and give it in a coherent way, from start to finish, as opposed to just diving in and then confusing everyone. So that's what I try and do. Whether I succeed, I don't know. But thank you very much for saying that. That's lovely to hear. Liam's wrote, love the lives. I learn a lot. Reek Petite's wrote, very impatient. Reminds me of my 9-year-old. I'm guessing that's Waterworld. Jane has wrote, time check 9:36. Wow, I'm nearly 2 hours behind. I will really go through these because there's only 74. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you, Jane, though. Nice of you to see you again, Jane. Don't let him on at all. I'm guessing that's Waterworld. Jay has wrote, ooh, a flat earther, my favourite kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, the thing was, we did a live the other day. He joined in, and I asked him questions, and he couldn't really answer them. And then he pointed out things, and I answered them. So it kind of felt one-sided. So all he did was, when he couldn't answer mine, he just changed the subject, which was not what I wanted. I wanted someone to actually go, you're right, and hands up, I admit I'm wrong, or right, you're wrong because X, Y, Z. I kind of, in my other lives, I've mentioned that flat earthers, on any of my posts, etc., they seem to change the subject a lot, and that seems to be a very simple technique to get away from problems. Liam's wrote, why do you always get jealous, horrible people that want to try and ruin you? Sorry, why do I always get jealous, horrible people that want to try and ruin you? Greed, I guess. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Scrolling down, Alfred has wrote, sir, I think you're an amazing pedagogue. Yeah, you do that deliberately, aren't you? Pedagogical. You're all going to start writing long words now, aren't you? Thank you, Alfredo. I needed that. Fakers wrote, I wouldn't give him the time of day. That was Waterman. Waterworld. Juniors wrote, flat earthers get angry really quick. I've seen the flat earthers argue with each other on their lives. Um, I would love to have seen that, actually. I really would. And then Alfredo's wrote to Jun, you'd think they'd be more level-headed. Yeah, to be honest with you, if they've got the logic to turn a globe into a flat earth, even though the logic is flawed in my opinion, or do they just follow one person, that, for example, Eric DeBay, and then they don't use their own brain, they just go, oh yeah, he's right, and that's the end of it. Alfredo, sorry, James wrote to things, people chatting to each other. Sadly, I'm kind of saying, people chatting to each other. People chatting to each other. Max Rents wrote, just dismiss the trolls, Gov. I try, but to be fair, I don't know it's a troll until I start reading out the message. That's why you'll never see me delete messages, because I start reading them, and by then I realise that I've already read it. Max Rent, they're winding you up. Yeah, more than likely. Fakers wrote, Waterworld isn't here. I think I can't even check the people in the chat. Yeah, I think I'll block him, only because I just don't need that. Because if we have a live debate next time and he then says, oh, we should do it again, which is what he did the first time, if I don't subscribe to the time that he wants me to, then I'm going to go through all that again. So I think he was a little bit rude to me. Scrolling down, Emma's wrote, some call it God, some the universe, and others alien. I'm guessing that's Elohim. I'm not sure. I'm behind on the questions. Sorry. Sorry, people chatting to each other. Scrolling down. Oh, it froze. 666 wrote, love you all. See you later. Thank you very much. It was really nice of you to join. I'm trying to be really quick now, and there's a lot of people chatting to each other, so I'm going down. Alfredo's wrote, shows the top 99 viewers with their ranking turned on. That's what mine says. That was to do with whether or not he could see Waterworld, whether he's still here or not. I'm probably going to get loads of nasty messages on my post that I did last time from him. Alfredo's wrote, how is it possible I go 1, 2, 3 on the day Salvatore isn't here? You should be happy. He really does ask some really good questions, but you asked some fantastic blinders today, so be proud of yourself. Fakers wrote to Alfredo, because he's not here. That's the reason why. No, I mean sometimes he doesn't go full out. Sometimes he just listens in, Salvatore. So, but either way, you deserve it today for Alfredo. Emma's wrote, different religions are just their interpretations of what they saw. Chinese whispers. Technically, I wouldn't agree with that, because the Bible obviously is talking about a religion as in Christianity, when they're really translating the tablets that we have about the Anunnaki. So, so they've added religion to the Anunnaki tablets. That's the thing, in my opinion, where obviously the Anunnaki didn't have a religion. But I kind of see what you're saying. They do, yeah. Yeah, you're kind of right, in a way, yeah. So, I am Groot has wrote, what is Anunnaki? So, Groot, never thought I'd be saying that. Very briefly, Anunnaki, an alien race on another planet in our solar system that has a 3,600 year elliptical orbit around our solar system, and they came here because they had atmosphere problems. They wanted to mine for gold to sprinkle in their atmosphere. While here, they got tired of working. They created humans, and I worked out yesterday on the live that they only spent 6 months working in their terms if they slept for 7 days and 7 nights, which I think they did. They only worked for 6 months and got tired and moaned. And there's me thinking, oh, the poor sods were here for 150,000 years. Poor sods. Mining. And it was, if you go by their time and they slept that, then they was only working for 6 months. 6 months, lazy sods. I know. Anyway, so yeah, that's what they were. They created humans in their image, and they're the ones that built the structures that we can't even build today. Max has wrote, do they know the orbit of Nibiru? Yeah, many people have done the same orbit. They could be wrong. They could all be wrong, obviously. But so many people have seemed to have done the same orbit. So if they're right, then that's the orbit. If they're wrong, then they're all wrong, in which case I have no idea what orbits it's in. Just scrolling down and yawning at the same time. Alfredo's wrote, oh my god, the one time I go ahead of the class and you're going to edit me out. That's when I joked when I said I'm going to have to edit someone out. And it wasn't Alfredo, it would have been who shall not be named, Voldemort. Scrolling down, JT has wrote, the Dead Sea is very salty, more saltier than the ocean. Yes, but in the particular places, because obviously if the ocean was the same as the Dead Sea, then you wouldn't have the lakes at the bottom of the ocean. Do you see the logic there? Because if it was equal to, so the lakes at the bottom of the ocean have a salt content that is, obviously higher than the salt content in the rest of the ocean. So that is why we get these lakes. So yes, I agree with you. The Dead Sea is not is more salty than the ocean, but in a particular place, for whatever reason, whether it's the underwater plants that's causing it or whatever, there seems to be a salty part that literally clears up the water. So it doesn't even look like there's water there. It's really weird. JT's wrote, that's very true. I have never considered that point. I don't know if that's the person talking or whether me saying something. Jun has wrote Sean Connery. Highlander, maybe. That was what I mentioned earlier. Yes, he was in Highlander. He played Ramirez. No, he didn't. Was he Ramirez? Yeah, he played Ramirez. Yeah. Scrolling on. Peaches wrote, is there a good reason for not debating with Waterworld tonight, Sensei? To be honest, I only wanted to do an hour, and it was just to highlight my video on the flooding. That was what I wanted to do tonight. I was aware of that he wanted to do it either tonight or tomorrow night, and because I'd done that video, I was really excited by it, and I thought I'd just do a little video, and then I could put this live chat on TikTok, etc. Not TikTok, YouTube, etc. to get people to want to go and look at the video that I'd done about thinking. And so I wasn't, so as soon as I knew he might come on, and as soon as I saw him, I said, hey, look, it can't be tonight, no worries, we'll do it another night. And that was it as far as I was concerned. But obviously he took umbrage to that and didn't like it, I guess. Peaches wrote 10:05 and it's now 10:34. I'm slowly catching up. There's only 14 left, so we should be able to finish tonight. Yay! People chatting to each other. June has wrote, "There's always tomorrow." Not sure why Waterworld got so mad. When you heard, hopefully you heard me saying how he was really nasty to me when I ended up having a live with him. But while I didn't see his messages, didn't see him come on because I don't always look down at the screen for 5 hours. As you know, I do these lives. I look away and sometimes I close my eyes. So I didn't see him requesting until when I finally did see him requesting, and then I accepted it. But by then he'd gone away and posted loads of nasty things on my videos. So he very sort of childish mannerisms. So I think I'll just, I'll probably block him only because if he's got that sort of mentality, he's probably going to end up posting negative comments again if he doesn't get his own way, so to speak. Yeah, sad. Junior's wrote, "I'm still waiting for Minuteman to accept the request for a debate." I did send him another message actually, and he's not replied. So I have an option, and I was tempted to do it. And let me know what you think, because there's only 10 messages left. Let me know what you think. So Minuteman got 1 million odd followers. He snippets people's talking about ancient history or whatever, and he nabs the first bit of theirs, and then he cuts in and says, "This person's wrong," and then he goes off on his merry way of trying to debunk the person. But of course, the person's video gets cut, so the context isn't there in full. So this person's got 1 million odd followers. He gets £2,000 in Patreon a month from people that believe whatever he says, I'm guessing, or find him interesting, one of the two, or both. And he's got 1 million odd followers on TikTok as well. So my idea was, because I already called him out and said, if we do a live, you have to put the live on all your channels. In other words, you have to leave it the recording on all your channels with your millions of viewers to find out whether you or me is right. And I know which one I'd bet on. So he's not come back to that because obviously he doesn't really want to lose millions of followers and his £2,000 that he gets on Patreon, and probably money on YouTube as well. He's probably monetized on that. So the last thing he wants to do is stick a video up where he looks stupid. So I've got an option to look at some of his videos and debunk him. Literally, where he starts to debunk someone, and then I'll let his play out, and then at the end of it, I'll go, well, actually, that's wrong because, and then point him in the errors. So let me know if that's something you think I should do, or whether you just think I should leave it and realise I was right, because if someone didn't want to do it with me, chances are they were probably slightly worried that they may look silly. I don't know. Just let me know what your thoughts are on that, whether you should think I should debunk his videos. It's a bit rude cutting into his, but then again, he does it to other people, so can't be rude if he just nicks other people's. I mean, he could nick some of mine and do the same and just chop them up. Like where I say I know where Atlantis is, it's the Heraclean. He could cut that and then say, no, it's not. It's a Rickett structure, and no one hear my 14 points of why I'm right, and he'll just waffle on about the Rickett structure, which there's nothing really to waffle on about other than it's circular, and that's about it, really. So, yeah, Emma's wrote, not supernova, just a huge flares, and many places have scorch marks. Okay, that's really interesting. So you've obviously done your homework. Yes, I will be doing a video very soon on that. Brian Forrester, I don't know if you know, has been round and pointed out structures where they've been literally blown with a very powerful blast of some description. Now, he actually keeps on about a solar flare of some description. And I disagree with that, because we know the Anunnaki had nuclear weapons. They said it, and we've got the evidence of the aftermath of those and not just the heat on the buildings. And we've actually got the isotopes in the green glass to prove that there was a nuclear explosion in Egypt, which is where he's saying that the blast actually happened. Now he says the sun flare. Now he also, and I want to do a video on this, and not to knock him, I think he's a fantastic researcher. But what he actually says was, this is pre-dynasty, so I don't know if you know much about the dynasty, but basically the Anunnaki pre-dynasty, other ones came thereafter. But he's saying that the blast happened pre-dynasty, e.g. 10,000 plus years ago. And he pointed out, as he was going around on his tour, he pointed out some of the dynasty artifacts that has these burn marks on them, heat marks, should I say, not burn, heat, extreme heat. And I just want to go back through that video again, pull that out, and then show that you can't have 10,000 years ago if you've, pre-dynasty, if you've actually got the same marks on dynasty ones, e.g. you have to bring that date forward. So in other words, the blast hit older buildings and also hit newer ones because it was done in newer time. You can't have it hitting newer objects that weren't even built at that point. So where people say it's a nova, that's people not putting two and two together and assuming that it's some sort of solar flare that came down only in Egypt. Just happens to be, wait for it, in the same place where the Anunnaki were. So my take on that is that it was one of those nukes 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, and so I just need to marry it all up, prove that the statues, etc., that have now got the heat marks on them are from around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. If they're older, then I'll have to rethink my conclusions. But if they are, as I think they are, then once again, our true history just keeps knocking everything out the park. So no to the flares, but yes to a nuclear weapon that the Anunnaki admitted they used, and we've got evidence of. Scrolling on, Emma's wrote also many cave paintings and paintings that some interpret a solar flare. I would say no to that. And you know why? Because if you ever looked at the sun, I would never look at the sun. And when I do, accidentally, I'm blind for the next 5 minutes. So you have to use a bit of logic. Do you think that a solar flare they would have noticed coming from a sun all the way to Earth and sat there and carved it and not died, luckily, and seen it come from directly from the sun and not some sort of missile? Because if you read the Mahabharata, it reads like a weapon coming down and causing an explosion as bright as the sun. So were they interpreting a nuclear explosion as bright as the sun? So sometimes you have to look things slightly different. That's the way I do anyway. I don't take everything as an interpretation. I try and look at it from every angle. I might be wrong, you might be right, but I'm just saying the chances of someone looking up at the sun at that moment, it only takes a couple of minutes for the light to get here from the sun. So, given the account it's a solar flare, let's just say it took a little bit longer, 5-10 minutes, say. Someone would have been looking up at that point. I don't know. And cave drawings. Don't know. I doubt if it is a solar flare, in my opinion. Steffi's wrote, gutted tiredness has just slapped me round the face. I don't want to leave though. I will. Okay, well, I'm almost done, but I will put these on TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube, etc. Thank you, though. It's nice that you said that. Emma's wrote, I'm just saying what I heard from the like of Trey Smith. Again, not sure who Trey Smith is, but so far everything that I've heard about him doesn't seem to be a great researcher. He just seems to say stuff. I might be wrong. Again, maybe I will look. You have to be careful, because if I look into people, I will debunk them, and I don't want to do that, but I can't help myself. So I will look into Trey Smith. Hey Google, set reminder for tomorrow at 5:30 p.m.
Okay, tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. What's the reminder?
Look into Trey Smith.
Sure, I'll remind you tomorrow at 5:30 p.m.
Okay, I just hope I don't go down a rabbit hole with him and just end up. But at least you'll know then, in my opinion of Trey Smith, whether or not I think he's right on things. Emma's wrote, I'm not with the big V that happened in the last couple of years. Well done, Emma. Me neither. Never going to get it. I'm guessing you're not either. Steffi's wrote, good night, you absolute legend, Outer History and everyone. Oh, that's very nice of you to say that to everyone as well. Thank you very much, Steffi. Almost done. Joseph wrote, Antarctica ice wall. There is ice in Antarctica. There is no ice wall around the globe, because people have sailed around the globe for thousands of years, and not one person, not one, zero, zilch, nada, none, have ever said they've come across an edge of a wall, they've been warned off, they've bumped into the edge, they've took pictures of the edge, never, nothing. And people always turn around and say, but the military, 50 years, the military possibly might have had the technology to warn people off. Again, zero zilch people have ever been told they've been warned off. I tell you what, Joseph, if you're really interested in where the ice wall silliness come from and how I can prove that they actually didn't even listen to the words of Admiral Byrd properly, watch my videos. No one, no flat earther, I've even spoke to the main person himself tonight. I've asked him questions and he just don't answer it because they can't. So I literally prove on my videos that the flat earthers have picked the wrong, or just didn't listen to Admiral Byrd properly, and therefore they've equated something to it when they've already started off on the false premise. So watch my video, and if you can tell me I'm wrong, you would be the first ever, but you won't be able to, because obviously I'm pointing to Admiral Byrd saying it. So there's no ice wall around Australia or anything. So you're all right. You can sleep safe at night with that knowledge. June has wrote, the ice wall is only in Antarctica. Technically, ice walls are in North and South Pole, basically where there's big, huge chunks of ice, and that's pretty much it. And all the pictures you ever see. And I asked someone the other day to send me a picture of the geotag of the supposed ice wall that they said that they took a picture of, and they didn't send me the picture, and that's because it would be in Antarctica, not behind Australia or anywhere else, in which case it's not the ice wall, it's just freaking Antarctica. June is right, I think that's a great idea. I hope you do that. That was where I knocked down Minuteman. I mean, it'll end up being a feud, but if you think it's a good idea, I mean, he does it to other people, so what gives him the right to do it to other people and not have it done to him would be my argument. Liam's wrote, "Am back, got cut off. Being a good live mate, always learn from you, so I appreciate it." Oh, thank you, Liam. That's very nice of you to say. Alfredo's wrote, "Is it possible the Anunnaki was responsible for the nuclear war on Mars?" The more I think about the nuclear war on Mars, the more I think there was no nuclear war on Mars. First of all, you've got people here saying before even the first rover hit Mars that there's isotopes on Mars. And I kind of fell for that because I didn't do my homework like an idiot. And I fell for the fact that these people, scientists, were saying there's isotopes on Mars which can only be caused by nuclear explosions. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. After that, I thought, hang on a minute. What rovers went there and sent the information back? None at that point. So I then started thinking, okay, what about this whole Mars thing and everything else? And of course, the Anunnaki, the Agigi were there. There was grass, there would have been animals, and there would have been water for them to have survived for 200 odd thousand years there. So, which again to them was only a year and a half in their terms. So it's not that long to live on Mars in their life expectancy. But yeah, so the more I look into it, the more I think there was no, and of course the Anunnaki admit and say that there was this massive storm on Mars, so that's why they didn't go back there, the Aigi. So that storm ended up covering over everything. So if that storm ended up covering over everything, including, and I mean that storm's still going on to this day, including the land where it was hit with a nuclear weapon, then you got to wonder, could they pick up the isotopes even if there was a rover there after 200, after 100 and I'm trying to think, they were there till 200, so 100. So even after 100,000 of our years, would we be able to detect isotopes on that planet after a storm's been going for 100,000 years on that planet? I mean, I would have thought it would have dissipated it to some degree, but maybe I'm wrong. But either way, the more I look into it, the more I think, no, there was no war on Mars. I mean, I know I've heard the stories of, it was the indigenous people and an alien race. It was two indigenous people that fought each other. It was two indigenous people versus another alien race outside. I'd heard all of those stories, but now the more I look into it, the more I think, no nuclear war that I'm aware of. I have a feeling that Mars has crappy atmosphere, and way back, way back, there may have been life on there. I think there was life when the Aigi were there, and then obviously that dust storm just basically wiped out everything. Now there may not have been animals on there. I mean, if they only stayed there for a year and a half of their time, there may not have been, but I think there would have been water. Well, there was water there. Inky said there was water there. And if there's water, the chances are there's probably grass there. And if there's grass, there's probably fish, at least fish there, if not animals. Peaches wrote, will you please put this live up so I can catch up with the water world I missed? It was not. If you want me to leave it in, I will, but it wasn't pretty. Emma's wrote, Trey Smith videos shadow banned. Okay, that's I'm guessing that's what I'm gonna need to look for. Thank you for that, Emma. Peaches wrote, I'm having a donut with a cup of tea. I could have done with one, but no one came in the front room to offer me a tea tonight. Scorpio wrote, I'm new here, but thank you so much for the great information. Oh, it's really nice of you to even pop up and say that. I know there's, at the end of these lives, I look back and you can see who was here, and there's, people that never say anything, but that, they listen for 4 hours. So for those people that are doing that right now, you're my unsung heroes, and you're the ones that keep me going as well. So thank you, Scorpio, and everyone for saying that. Peaches wrote to Scorpio, hope you pop back Sunday night at 8 p.m. I think it's Saturday that I'm doing the live with Philomena. This Saturday. South Coast Dweller wrote, did you see the rover photo from Mars showing a UFO? Is that the one that was in the sky? I think I did. These people zoomed in on it. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's also Yeah, I have. Yeah, to 11 o'clock. I don't want to go waffle on, but yes, I did. Yeah. Um, or certainly something on the camera. Now, whether or not it was on the lens or not, I can't say. But there was something that was there. Elims wrote, "Did the Anunnaki bring creatures, animals from Nibiru? I'm not sure, but I thought they did after ADA returned from visiting Nibiru. They did, yes, they did. So you remember well. Yeah, the sheep. Don't ask me now. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I will go through it again. Sheep and goats, which are interesting because both of those have slit eyes, which is really interesting. So you got to wonder: are they slit eyes because their own home planet evolved into having slit eyes? And then you got to say, well, maybe the Anunnaki actually had slit blue eyes as opposed to pupils, round pupils. So interesting questions. But yes, they did say that they bought certain animals and barley and wheat and stuff like that from their home planet. So well done, good remembering. And you wrote Adam, yeah, Adapa. Yeah, you've obviously probably read the Lost Book of Enki then, by the sounds of it. Liam's wrote, I love listening, mate. Am Tay educate myself. I'm guessing that's I'm trying to educate myself. And these lives really help. Oh, thank you. It's really nice. Yeah, again, don't always take what I say as 100% true. Do your own research. You know, hopefully you'll come to the same conclusions as me, but please do your own research. You know, that's all I can say. Mike has wrote, "What's up? I finally found the only interesting live on TikTok. Laugh out loud." Oh, thank you, Mike. But I'm literally just about to go. But it's really nice of you to say. I know I've flicked through other people's lives. Um, there's some interesting ones, but they're very slow in talking and very boring, which is a shame. But I have to shoot now. I've got to go put my boy to bed. I've got to let dogs out and stuff like that. But if you've not watched my videos, I've got 900 odd videos. Start from number one. If you can't do it on TikTok, go to outruehistory.co.uk. Click on the videos and you can watch them in bulk on my videos. I've edited them together so you can just sit there and watch them. And, you know, I go through everything, you know, paranormal, all sorts of stuff. So far, everyone seems to enjoy them, which is really nice. So feel free to do that. But I do have to shoot because I've got stuff I've got to sort out. But thank you. Liam's wrote, your knowledge is brilliant in live. It when debunk people in seconds. Haha. I feel bad, but you know, you've probably heard me on other lives as well. Then where someone says something, I kind of enjoy it as a guilty pleasure, but literally they have no, you know, when they come out with something, they clearly have got that off of the internet, off of someone else. Because I point out things, and if it was me, I would write, knowing the person reads every single message, I would write back and say, no, you're wrong. I was right the first time. And then I would explain where the person, such as me, had got it wrong. But no one ever comes back after I debunk them and says to me, I know I'm wrong. I would do that. If I felt that I was right, I would wait and write a message and wait for the person to come back and say, and read it, and then, you know, prove my point, because that's what I do. That's me. But no one's done that to me. So yeah, so I guess I do debunk them if they can't come back and refute my debunking. Donna's joined and probably was already here sneaking away and wrote good live tonight. Thank you, Donna. Hope you sleep well tonight. And Alfreda's wrote, see you everyone. When you're next back in, I'll probably do Saturday now, which is with Philomena. I probably won't do the. I'll have to block Waterworld just because I've seen his vile comments on the posts where you know. So I'll probably have to do on the other post, not just on the live. Where he's called me a clown and stuff. I think that's quite nasty. So yeah, so I'll probably skip one tomorrow and I'll do the Philomena one on Saturday at 8 p.m. UK time. I don't know what that is wherever you guys are, but Philomena's fantastic, and it's it's just going to be full on education for both me and her and you guys hopefully. Jane's at night. Looking forward to your next live. Thank you very much, Jane. Really nice of you to join again and help out with the time checks and that. It does mean a lot to me. Alfredis wrote, go after Minuteman, get him, sir. Okay, I will. Probably won't be this week, but I will do that. And Liam's off to bed as well. Okay, thank you guys. I've got to go and shoot now, but thank you so much. Excellent live. I will put this on Spotify and YouTube, etc. Thank you for all the hearts, by the way. I don't, because I swipe across, I don't see the hearts anymore. I see bigger writing, which is great, but I don't see the hearts or any of the images down the bottom. So thank you, though, for the hearts, whoever's been doing that. Okay, I'm off, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye. Bye.